Hello. I'm going to be streaming Saya no Uta for Halloween today. So this is the Steam version. I think all of the H scenes have been cut out. So, but I do have a censor ready, just in case. So, if anything unexpected comes up, I'll be ready. So yeah, also I opened the config window because the BGM sounded a little quiet on my end. Hopefully it's fine for you guys. So I raised that. And there's all these other options, which I don't remember from the original. So I first read this when I was in college. So 2008, 2009, maybe. But now it's got all these fancy options. You can get rid of the CGs, the grotesque CGs. I'm not really sure which ones those are. You can censor those. You can movie skip. I don't remember any movies, so I guess we're watching a movie too. And all these different options, which I think is pretty cool. So we'll just start. It's a work of fiction. Don't worry, guys. This is real. It's not real. It contains grotesque images that may disturb some viewers. Yeah, don't modify. We'll look at the gross ones, because I don't really remember anything super gross. I mean, I guess some of the backgrounds are kind of gross, but like as far as like people getting killed and stuff, I don't think there is anything like not appropriate for YouTube. So I'll just go with the default. Unless they remade some of these CGs. Oh yeah. So this is a little bit different, actually, because I remember the first couple lines were just this jumbled text, and when I first downloaded the game, I was like, "Is this broken? Do I need to install some font pack or something?" But they actually have actual English text here, so it works. Hi, Angela. All right, so the wriggling mass of flesh burbles. Yeah. Give 52 FDF percent TSU BA. All right. 3 such creatures sit around the table in front of me, slurping filthy sludge from their cups as they trade whines, growls, and sounds that I cannot describe. The whole game isn't like this, so don't worry. Snow? I see the word snow. Maybe this is a Christmas game. I'm playing it on the wrong holiday. Red, snow. By listening carefully, I'm able to grasp the gist of their conversation and respond when it is required of me. This is necessary to avoid arousing their suspicion. Whoever these creatures look, they are my friends, apparently. Oh, it's me. We even have similar hair. He's male Risino. I wish I could still deny it, but I gave up on that a long time ago. Oh, whoops. Just let me know if the music is too loud. Because on the title screen it seemed fine, but now it's like the track is louder, so I'm not really sure how it sounds on the stream. I wish I could still deny it. I gave up on that a long time ago. Night after night, I went to sleep praying for an end to this nightmare, only to wake each morning to the same twisted hellscape as the day before. I know now that I have to blend in, that I have to act like one of them. Such has been my life these past 3 months, and so it will remain until the day I die. Angst. Now you can't see my cursor. I'm underlining words that I see in the jumbled text. So, and judging by its tone, this one must be Koji, and the one next to him squealing more than the others is probably Omi. Which means that the one next to me is Yo. Though I can no longer see any trace of her once attractive features, I try my best to ignore the rotten stench of excrement that issues from her quivering flesh. Everything has changed. Or almost everything. By some cruel trick of fate, my relationship to the world alone remains the same. As if an insane architect took the blueprints of my life and rebuilt it out of blood and gore. These monsters and I were part of the same college club. We studied together, ate together, we even went skiing together every winter break. Now these are but painful memories of days that will never return. If only no one recognized me, I might have been able to disconnect myself from the world. It would have been comforting in comparison to belief that I had been abducted by aliens, or that I had stumbled through a gateway to hell. But no, this is beyond a doubt the city where I was born and raised, the society that I was part of for 20 years. Save that, I, and I alone, can no longer see it that way. The world as I knew it is gone. I have no place to call home. Skip through some of this jumbled stuff. Anyway, I can tell that whatever they're discussing is of no importance to me. I decide to keep quiet while pretending to listen. But just then... Hey, Fuminori, one of the flesh beasts says as it swivels its bloodshot eyes toward me. What do you think? Is he showing me his new business card? About what? I guess I won't read the voice lines. He actually voiced that one. I try desperately to suppress my loathing and behave normally, but my hoarse voice ruins the attempt. We're talking about this year's ski trip. You're coming too, right? A slimy hole near the top of the creature writhes nauseatingly as it vomits some semblance of words. That must be Koji's face, or what I would have seen as such 3 months ago. Unable to stomach the sight of it, I avert my eyes and give a neutral answer. You have other plans? Oh, his voice sounds kind of quiet. I don't know. We'll apply that. See if that changes things at all. You have other plans? Not really. These are my closest companions. One of them had even wished to be more. Ooh, a romance. A failed romance. How many nights have I spent crying in loneliness, lamenting the friends who no longer exist? In 3 months, my tears ran dry, and now there is only loathing left in me. Surrounded by hideous creatures, whoops, I keep pressing that button, that I can only assume are Koji, Omi, and Yo, I spend each day trying to act as I always have. If I fail at this, I'll surely be sent back to the hospital. Only this time I'll be locked away forever. No matter what, I won't let that happen. I mean, it's not like physical activity could affect your injuries, right? That's it. I can't look at them or bear their screeching any longer. I jump to my feet, desperate to escape. Hey, Fuminori. A spray of stringy slime from the cilia around its voice box flies at me. I try to cover myself, but too late to keep the slime from splattering across my face like the yolk of a rotten egg. Damn. I'm about to lose it. I want to grab a chair, a desk, anything within reach, and use it to smash the life out of this creature, ending it all. I barely suppressed the impulse. I must have let on that something is wrong. However they look at me, this is their world. I'm the outsider here. Struggling to put on a smile, I reach into my wallet, pull out the first bill I find, and put it on the table without even looking at it. I don't care about the change, I just need to get out of here, now. Later, I muster hastily and flee the cafeteria. I'm not crazy. Sounds like something a crazy person would say. Okay, so this is Omi speaking. Scuba Yo frowns at the suggestion. I've never been skiing. I used to live close to mountains, I guess. They were about 30 or 40 minutes away. But, I mean, I was working at the time, so I used to work a lot. So I didn't really have time to do stuff like go on a ski trip or anything. Tono Koji supports Omi with a laugh. Her impromptu suggestions are nothing new, and it's Koji's role as her boyfriend to provide backup. They're a good match for each other, Yo thinks. Sometimes it makes her jealous. Yeah, I have been ice skating. It's been a long time since I've went, but I used to do it a lot when I was a youngster, and it's pretty fun. So it was a date. Yo feels a stab of envy. Oh no, she's a incel. Koji and Omi enjoy their time together as normal lovers do. That's certainly not something that should make her jealous. It's just that her luck in love has been bad. Yo keeps her voice upbeat, trying to cover up her disquiet. She knows that it's wrong to envy her friends. She too would be spending time with the man she admires if not for the terrible tragedy that befell him. His is true misfortune, her bad luck doesn't begin to compare. Well, skiing and skating isn't the same thing. Oh, well, I guess, yeah. She wants to do both. Sounds dangerous. While speaking, Yo sneaks a sideways glance at the young man sitting next to her. Although the conversation has involved only 3 people so far, there are in fact 2 couples at the cafeteria table. Yo's boyfriend, though there's still some doubt over whether he could be called that, is beside her, as silent and expressionless as a statue. Perhaps Koji sensed Yo's pain in his usual quiet and considerate way. So I guess this is just going back through the last scene just showing us what was actually happening. The cause of Yo's distress, Sakisaka Fuminori responds to Koji's sudden query with a vague, mumbled question of his own.
Yeah, だからさ、今年の冬のスキーだよ。お前も行くよな。
Koji speaks gingerly, as though probing a tumor. A few months ago, he would not have hesitated to rebuke Fuminori for his attitude. Their long acquaintance had forged a strong and honest friendship, but now... See, Fuminori responds bluntly, his downcast eyes and sullen demeanor, making it clear that he has no desire to break his silence. Even Koji, Fuminori's best friend, cannot communicate with him as before. What hope does Yo have of breaking through his shell? The scars left by the events of that late summer day are still deep all these months later. Each one of the four bears them, not only Fuminori.
別に運動するのが傷に触るとかそういうわけでもないんだろう。どうだろうな。今日の診療で先生に聞いてみる。
As though that answer drained the last of his patience, Fuminori bolts out of his chair.
おい、Fuminori!
Even Koji can't keep his voice from rising as he tries to stop Fuminori from leaving. Fuminori reacts swiftly, throwing his hand over his face as though to shield himself from something terrifying. Maybe some spit flew inadvertently from Koji's mouth, but that happens sometimes. Fuminori's reaction is beyond the pale. Fuminori snaps, making no attempt to relieve the discomfort of his friends. Even as he tosses money on the table to pay for his coffee, he acts like he's touching something filthy. Money is pretty filthy. I mean, a lot of people touch it, and it's actually pretty gross. Fuminori stalks out of the cafeteria, almost as if he is running away. Cloaked in heavy silence, the remaining three lower their gaze to the table, where the abandoned 10,000 yen bill sways forlornly. Fuminori's coffee is untouched. Oh, that's some expensive coffee. So at the time that this was made, I think the whole $1 is 100 yen rule of thumb was... kind of the norm, I guess. So that's about $100. Now it's not so much. Now it's like 70. Yomi says with a sigh, but Koji shakes his head reproachfully. He's in a traumatic event.
なんなのよあれ。付き合ってるこっちが変になりそうよ。
俺だってわからない。わかるはずもないと思う。お前だって想像つくか。あんなひどい形で家族全員を奪われて平気でいられるわけないよ。
So his whole family was killed. Yeah, I mean, she acts like you're supposed to get over that in 3 months. I don't think it's that easy. It could have happened to anyone. A tractor trailer flipped over on the highway, crushing the Sakisaka family car into twisted scrap. They said it had been difficult to tell the bodies of Fuminori's parents apart. For a while, it had looked as if there was no hope for Fuminori either, and it was nothing short of a miracle that he was able to leave the hospital and return to a normal life.
見舞いに行った時なんてもっとひどかったじゃないか。誰が誰かも分からずに怯えて暴れてベッドに縛り付けられて、今はよくあそこまで立ち直ってくれたと思う。
それにしたって変よ、咲坂君。私たちのこと見る目つき、あれ何なの？
よせ、近江。
Koji says forcefully, probably less out of empathy for his friend than out of consideration for Yo. While Koji's kindness makes her happy, Yo also knows that she mustn't take advantage of it. Fuminori is the victim, just as Koji said. He's the one who most deserves sympathy. Yo's feelings for Fuminori are her problem and no one else's. Except he hasn't been able to return to normal life. Yeah. See, she doesn't blame Fuminori for not giving her an answer after she worked up the courage to ask him out. In fact, she thinks even more fondly of him for taking the time to consider than she would have had he treated their relationship casually. Apparently, the fact that Fuminori did not reject her was enough to make them a couple in Koji and Omi's eyes. They've had plenty of fun at Yo and Fuminori's expense since. The truth of it, though, is that he still hasn't given her an answer. Oh no, she's still waiting. After revealing her feelings to him, Yo didn't see Fuminori again until a week later, and then she could only stare at his broken body through the window of the ICU. And when he was finally released after 50 days that seemed an eternity, he was somehow different. She's starting to doubt that he even remembers what she confessed to him before the accident. Now winter is coming and her feelings hang forgotten in the cold, lonely air. Dr. Tombo Ryoko has never had a more troublesome patient. Oh yeah, the hot doctor. I forgot about her.
いいえ、別段。これといって問題もなく。
His voice is hard and flat, his words tossed carelessly into the air. It's like he's speaking to himself in an empty room. Ryoko is a surgeon, not a psychiatrist, but even she can sense the thickness of the wall he has erected between himself and the world.
吐き気やめまい、幻聴や幻覚といった体験は?
Nope, all good. What kind of person would lie to their doctor?
いえ、何も。
While Sakisaka appears to be looking at Ryoko, his gaze is actually aimed a fraction down into the side. He's only superficially engaged in the conversation, when in truth it does not interest him in the slightest. Perfect rejection. Realizing that she can't interview him like this, Ryoko sighs and sets her chart aside.
崎坂さん、あなたが当院で受けた処置は脳神経医学の分野では世界的に最先端の治療でした。そのことはご存知ですよね。
Treatment of subdural hematoma through the use of micromachines, a procedure available in Japan exclusively here at T University, had been the only way to save Sakisaka Fuminori from a cerebral contusion that should have been fatal.
最先端であるということは、まだまだデータの出揃っていない危険性の伴う治療法だったという意味でもあります。
そうでしょうね。
Sakisaka Fuminori's lips twist slightly in what might be a bitter or mocking smile, but it is gone before Ryoko can discern its meaning.
普通こんなことを言って脅かすのは医者として問題なんですが、施術後に重大な脳障害をきたしたケースも報告されているんです。予後の経過には十分に注意しなければなりません。
Nah, he's fine. Totally normal. Hence these weekly checkups, if only he would take them a little more seriously.
先週の MRI はどうでした?
Sakisaka asks abruptly as if to catch Ryoko off guard. MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, is a way for doctors to examine the brain in detail without opening the patient's skull. Surprised by Sakisaka's uncommon technical knowledge, Ryoko recalls his profile. Yeah, normal people don't know what an MRI is.
そういえばあなたも医者の卵だったわね。
先生が心配しているような脳機能不全は画像診断だけでも十分にわかるはずですよね。
いいえ。
There was nothing, not the slightest hint of abnormal activity. For a procedure with such a low rate of success, the results have been nothing short of miraculous. However, something still bothers Ryoko. She can't shake the feeling that he's hiding something beneath his guarded exterior. Some terrible weight on his soul, perhaps. But if it's an inorganic problem, then there's nothing she can do as long as he refuses to explain it.
大丈夫ですよ、先生。現に僕は今こうして病院の外でも何不自由なく生活しています。問題なんてないでしょ。
ねえ、崎坂さん。こういった難しい手術は予後不断な原則なんです。もう少し私たちを信用してもらえませんと。
そうですよね。僕だって先生方を信用したい。どんな相談にも乗ってもらえるんですか？
ええ、もちろん。
Ryoko answers, smiling to cover up her irritation. Sakisaka asked exactly the same question during last week's visit.
じゃあ先週の話の続きなんですが、先生、あれから大貝教授については何か分かりましたか？
Unable to answer, Ryoko hardens the mask of her smile. As before, the patient is inquiring about someone whom he has no business knowing.
大貝教授のことはあなたの治療とは何の関係もないでしょ？
信頼しろと言った矢先にいきなり隠し事ですか？
Ryoko is used to patients treating her with hostility. Some degree of paranoia is natural when dealing with a person whose mistakes could kill you. In Sakisaka, however, she doesn't see the anxiety that other patients exhibit. His demeanor is perfectly calm, almost like a detective questioning a suspect.
何分だいぶ前にここを辞められた方ですからね。私個人としても交流があったわけではないし。
辞めた理由はご存知ない？
ええ、おそらく個人的な事情でしょうね。
Ryoko answers smoothly, her earlier hesitation gone. Having decided at the outset to lie, she has no trouble doing so with a straight face.
それにしても、崎坂さん、なぜあなたはそんなに大貝教授にこだわるんです？
教授は今失踪中なんです。知ってましたか？
いいえ。
Ryoko realizes that her answer may have been a little too quick. She should have acted more surprised.
近頃教授の身内の人間と恋にしていましたね。その人から調査を頼まれているんです。
A relative? Ryoko considers this with a frown.
大貝教授に縁者の方はおられないはずですが。
おお、誰から聞きました？
それは噂話に。
Ryoko replies, remembering that she just claimed to have no contact with the man.
そんなことが噂になる程度には、大貝教授は有名人だったわけですね。
まあ、一風変わった人だったみたいですね。
なのに、誰も彼が大学を辞めた理由を知らないと。
Ryoko falls silent, knowing that this isn't a topic she can brush away with a smile. Sakisaka seems to have finally grasped her mood, however, as his strangely stiff tone softens a little.
先生、僕はどうしても大貝教授に会わなきゃならないんです。彼がいなくなったせいで、行く当てがなくなり困っている子がいるんです。
それはむしろ警察の領分なんじゃないかしら。
Although she makes it sound like the most obvious thing in the world, the suggestion is actually a gamble. If Ogai Masahiko's disappearance becomes a police matter, then the university will be investigated. Everyone who is involved in the incident will be at risk of exposure. Oh, so there was some incident, I guess. And of course that includes Ryoko herself. She knows, however, that Sakisaka is unlikely to go to the police. First of all, his excuse is obviously a lie. They already made sure that Ogai had no relatives who might come looking for him, which is why they could bury the truth of what happened. But then how did Sakisaka, a mere patient, learn about Ogai?
崎坂さん、私の知っている範囲のことは喜んでお教えします。ですが、大貝教授は今年の4月に辞表を出して、以後は何の音信もないんです。どこか長期の旅行にでも行かれたか。
そうですか。
Expecting resistance, Ryoko is surprised when Sakisaka backs down. She's still worried about his condition, and the mysterious link between him and Ogai is only making her more uneasy. But as long as he doesn't open up to her, there's nothing she can do. After a brief pause, Ryoko writes "Progress good" on Sakisaka's chart for today.
崎坂さん、それでは来週の診察ですが、今日と同じ4時でも。
Before she can finish, Sakisaka is gone. So, we're looking for a doctor who used to work at the hospital, and there's some kind of cover-up going on. It looks like someone sprayed the walls with pig guts from ceiling to floor. Nice. What color should the walls of a hospital be? White, of course. And to the creatures of rotten flesh shambling around me, I'm sure this hallway looks just as white as it should. I know intellectually that the walls are white. I know that the flesh beasts are really human. I'm the one with the problem, and it's because I've accepted this that I'm able to lead something approaching a normal life. Even if my university's medical department is nowhere near as good as T University's, I'm still a medical student specializing in neurology. I have a basic idea of what has happened to me, though it's hard to believe. This isn't a pathological condition. It's probably some form of agnosia, unlike anything that has ever been studied before. The flesh beast called Tombo Ryoko said that other patients had developed neurological disorders after receiving the same treatment I did, so I guess I'm just another failure. It makes me want to laugh in that know-it-all doctor's face. That said, I don't blame the doctors who operated on me. After all, I do owe them my life. I know as well as anyone how low the chance of success was, and that I had no other hope for survival. I was unlucky, that's all there is to it. The point is that my condition isn't treatable. Just like someone adapting to a hearing aid or wheelchair, I have no choice but to adapt to this nauseating scenery. Of course it's hard. It wasn't easy to resign myself to this fate. But now there's more than just despair. Even for me, there's a glimmer of hope. Keeping my eyes on my feet, I hurry home. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, in a house that's much too large for me alone. My parents, even unluckier than I was, died in the accident 3 months ago. I couldn't even go to the funeral for being in intensive care. I had to sell my father's business, but at least that left me with the house and enough money to live on for a while. Of course I'm sad, but the accident took more from me than my parents. In fact, being on my own has probably saved me. If they were still alive, my parents would never have allowed me to live with some strange girl. Oh boy. She's here. As I open the door, a bright voice greets me from the kitchen. The voice is beautiful and clear as a bell, human. Its sweet sound washes the day's cacophony from my memory. Even the patter of feet coming down the hallway is music to my ears. Feet. Nowhere else in the city can I hear such footsteps. Only in this house with Saya am I so privileged. Yo, feet shads, we won.
遅かったね。ちょっと心配しちゃったぞ。
ごめんよ。今日は病院に寄っていく日だったから。
ああ、そうだっけ。
Dang, she's cute. I have a figure of Saya. It's still packed away because I never unpacked any of my stuff when I moved. But it's there. It's pretty nice. See, and her smile and the inquisitive tilt of her head is everything that I have lost. Since my accident, this girl is the only person I met, perhaps the only person in the entire world, who does not trigger my cognitive disorder. True, her skin seems too white, and the color of her eyes and hair is probably different in reality, but even so, her form is undeniably human. It's not just her appearance and her voice, either. As I bend down to take off my shoes, Saya wraps her arms around my neck and pulls me gently into her chest. Her skin feels truly human, not cold or slimy, and from her hair wafts a sweet feminine fragrance. In all the world, only Saya is pleasing to my 5 senses. And what's more, she smiles at me, embraces me. She knows that she is my salvation, and for some reason is happy that I need her. If I had not met Saya, if I had been all alone in this twisted, filth-ridden world, I would no doubt have succumbed to madness. It's no exaggeration to say that Saya alone is keeping me alive.
今日は一日どうしてた？
今の模様替えもう半分ぐらい塗り終わったよ。で今はね、文則の晩ご飯作ってるの。昼間テレビで作り方やってたから。
そうか。楽しみだな。
Oh, she's making dinner.
もうちょっと時間かかりそうなの。待っててくれる？
いいよ。じゃあ僕は今の続きをやってる。
After I see the humming Saya off to the kitchen, I step into the living room. I realized one day that if the natural colors of the world were sickening, all I had to do was paint over them with colors that seemed pleasant. I went to the hardware store and bought every color of paint I could find. Then Saya and I tried different combinations until we found one that worked. After painting the bedroom from ceiling to floor, I was finally able to get my first good night's sleep since the accident. When we first started on the living room, Saya, unsure what to do with the curtains, just painted carefully around the windows, without a moment's hesitation. I tore the curtains down and painted over the glass itself. So he painted all his windows. The neighbors are gonna ask questions. There'll never be anything out there that I'd want to see, and as long as we keep the storm shutters closed, the neighbors probably won't think anything of it.
ご飯できたよ。
こっちで食べよう。持ってきてくれるか。
ペンキの匂い、平気？
So as she enters the living room with a tray of food, Saya sniffs the air. Now that she mentions it, I suppose the smell of paint thinner must be building up in this closed room. It doesn't really bother me, though. There are far worse smells outside.
さやは嫌いかい？
平気。海のりが大丈夫ならいい。
Saya sets the food on the table. Unfortunately, neither its color nor its smell is at all appetizing. Not that the food elsewhere is any different.
いただきます。
As has become routine, I steel myself and methodically transport the food into my mouth. The taste is as gut-wrenching as I expected, but it's not Saya's fault. I'm sure she made it exactly like the cooking show said. It's just that my taste buds can't accept it.
美味しくない？
She asks hesitantly.
まあね。
Lying won't make Saya happy. She knows about my condition.
気にしないで。明日はまた別のものを作ってあげるから。
ごめんな、いつも。せっかく作ってくれたのに。
いいのよ。こうやっていろいろ試していけば、いつか海のりでも美味しく食べられるメニューが見つかるかもしれないじゃない。
In my current state, eating is nothing more than an unwelcome duty. As much as I hate it, I need food to survive. If I stay alive, then perhaps one day, as Saya says, I'll be able to taste something delicious again. I met Saya, didn't I?
さやは食べないの？
Aren't yeah.
私はもう済ましたから。
In all the time we've been together, Saya has never once eaten with me. I don't know why she refuses to do so. It makes me a little sad. Still, I'm not about to push the issue. Not when she's putting up with all the problems I have. I wonder what's weird about Saya. She seems like a normal girl. Well, maybe she's anorexic. That must be it.
そういえば、今日もう一度病院で君のお父さんのこと聞いてみた。
パパの？
Dr. Ogai Masahiko is Saya's father and her only living relative. Saya has asked me to unravel the mystery of his disappearance.
やっぱり何も教えてくれない。何か隠している雰囲気なんだな。
そう。
I expected Saya to be a little more disappointed.
心配じゃないのかい？お父さんのこと。
そういうわけじゃないの。
Saya responds with an unreadable expression. She gives a little shake of her head, then smiles at me once again.
ありがとう、海のり。私のためにいろいろと。
君はそれ以上のことを僕のためにしてくれるんだ。
I thank her for the meal and set my chopsticks down next to the perfectly clean plate. As wretched as the taste was, thinking of the care that Saya put into it gave me the strength to finish every bite.
じゃあ、お風呂にする？
Bath time.
また背中流してくれるか？
I might need to get my sensor ready. I don't remember when the scenes were. So this is the Steam version, like I said before, which I think has all of the scenes cut out, but I don't know. Ever since Saya moved in, it's been like having my own wife. Let's see. And I'll just put my sensor up. Saya, why are you so good to me? Alright, yeah, I think it just shows the background. Is this truly what you want? What am I, that you can give yourself to me body and soul? Is this merely sympathy? Do you pity me, the exile from society? Is that enough for you to surrender yourself to such mad desire? Are you so wanton? Saya is here, she's with me now. Only in this moment is her existence certain. Only when I am joined with her can I believe. No matter what cruel fate might await me, Saya, there is nothing I fear more than losing you. Oh no, he's crying. I realize that my cheeks are wet with tears.
なぜ僕にここまでしてくれる？
みのり。
わからないんだ。わからないのに僕だけがどんどん君に惹かれていく。君なしちゃ耐えられなくなっていく。
I've wrapped my arms tighter around her, praying that our bodies will melt together and never again be apart.
教えてくれ。どうすれば君を失わずにいられる？僕は何をすればいい？どうやって君に報いればいい？
こうやって抱いていて。
Saya whispers into my chest.
みのりに抱いてもらうの大好き。だから私はみのりから離れたりしない。
なぜ僕なんだ？
それはね、みのりが一人ぼっちだから。
She says softly, gazing up into my eyes. Oh, she's such a good girl.
それはさやも一人ぼっちだったから。
The sorrow in her voice resonates with my own. There's a deep loneliness in her eyes, a loneliness from which now springs boundless affection.
だからさやにもふみのりしかいないの。この世でただ一人だけ私を抱きしめてくれる大好きなふみのり。
Now I know. No matter what horrors this world unleashes upon me, all I'll ever need is Saya. Yo is determined to talk to him today. Nothing will happen as long as she hesitates. It will only prolong her suffering. The time has come to show courage once again. Yo's fourth period on Thursdays is biology. This is her one chance to see Fuminori. As a required course with many students, the lecture is held in a large hall that can seat well over 200. But since the room is usually only half full, it is rarely difficult for Yo to find the seat she wants. Yo prefers to sit near the center, where it is easiest to hear the professor. Most of the students congregate in this area for the same reason. I used to have a class like that. It was actually biology. It was just in like an auditorium that sat like 300 people. And like 75% of them failed the class because it turns out that that's not a good environment for learning. You know, who would have thought? Yeah, Fuminori usually sits beside her. Although given the ambiguous state of their relationship, she knows better than to take this for granted. Still, she tries to save a seat whenever possible. The classroom isn't crowded today, so Yo is able to set her bag on the seat next to her without inconveniencing anyone. Her outfit is kind of lewd. If you look at her waistline, it's a pretty lewd outfit to be wearing to class. When the professor arrives at the usual time to start class, there's still no sign of Fuminori. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Yo scans the room furtively. Fuminori is there, sitting alone in the far back corner. Did he miss Yo when he came in? No, he couldn't have. And besides, no serious student would willingly sit so far away from the front. Feeling miserable, Yo slides her bag over to herself. Fuminori is out the door the moment class ends. Yo barely manages to catch up to him before he disappears down the hallway. Fuminori jerks at the sound of his name. You would think she just screamed at him.
何か
He turns to her and asks reluctantly. Now that they're face to face, Yo is painfully aware of how much weight Fuminori has lost. His sunken eyes and protruding cheekbones are a far cry from the features familiar to her. She wonders whether he's under a lot of stress, or perhaps not getting enough nutrition. Maybe it's both. He definitely looks more tense than he should, afraid even, though of what she can't imagine. His eyes move restlessly from point to point, and he refuses to look Yo in the eye. It hurts to see Fuminori this way. What could have changed him so? Today, she reminds herself, rekindling the flame of courage in her heart. We're getting a confession. She doesn't know that he has a cute and funny girl at home. The courtyard is empty and silent. No one is willing to sit and chat in the cold November air. Hey, it's almost November, I guess.
話って何
So what is it? No, he voiced that. Don't you remember? Yo almost blurts the question, but manages to keep her composure.
咲坂さん、最近ちょっと様子が変です。見てて心配になります。
そうかもね。まあ、あんな目にあった後だから。
He smiles like it's nothing, but even that seems forced. He's even standing precisely one pace farther away from her than he used to. She just keeps that kind of data on hand, I guess.
本当にそれだけなんですか?
君にはそれだけじゃないように見えるのかい?
Yo manages to keep from flinching at the harshness of his tone.
何か我慢してるみたいに見えます。
Rather than answer, Fuminori grinds his toe into the dead grass at his feet. Fearing that her determination might flag, Yo lets the words come as they may.
どうしようもないものを無理して壊れそうになるほど頑張って我慢してるみたいに。今の咲坂さんはそう見えます。
そうかい。
Fuminori mutters through clenched teeth, no longer trying to deny it or change the topic. This is an even clearer signal of rejection than his prior evasiveness. But Yo's determination is strong. Today, at least, she won't back down.
友達ってこんな時のためにいると思うんです。
She implores, trying to convey the sincerity of her feelings for him.
ご家族のことは本当に残念だったと思います。でも咲坂さんは一人ぼっちじゃありません。友くんや大見ちゃんや、それに私がいます。
Yo can no longer stop the words from pouring from her lips. She fears that if she does not unleash her feelings now, they will be lost forever.
一人で背負い込んだりしなくても、私たちで何とかできることだってあると思うんです。
I think I can hear my neighbor turning into the neighborhood. I don't know if the mic will be able to pick it up. Hopefully not.
たとえ何もできないにしても、話してさえくれれば、あなたが少しでも楽になるかもしれない。私、咲坂さんの力になりたいんです。他のみんなも同じ気持ちだと。
やめてくれ!
Fuminori shouts, silencing Yo's entreaty. She promised herself that she wouldn't back down, but Fuminori's expression is terrible enough to shatter her resolve. The look in his eyes is not anger or any other warm-blooded emotion. It is hate. Murderously cold hate.
そういえば君には一つ返事しなきゃいけない要件があったね。
Forehead too big. 2 out of 10. Get out of my face. He remembers. He remembers, and still he has treated her so coldly. That is all the answer she needs. If his words stab any deeper, she might very well die.
僕は君のことをとりわけ特別に意識したことなんてなかった。僕が君のことどう思ってるのか正直な気持ちが自分でもわからなかったから。
咲坂さん。
でもね、今ではもうはっきりと答えが出てる。あれから考える時間だけはたっぷりとあったからね。筑波さん、僕はあんたのことが大嫌いだ。顔も見たくない。
Damn. Rejected. Don't cry, Yo tells herself, but too late to stop the tears pouring from her
も
eyes.
う二度と会いたくないっていうのは無理だね。同じ学校に通ってるんだし。だからせめて今後は僕に声をかけないでくれないか。目障りなんだよ、つくづく。
Yo whispers in shock and despair, which Fuminori twists his lips into a malevolent smile.
君さ、少しは頭を冷やした方が良かったんだよ。どうせ大宮浩二にけしかけられてその気になってただけなんだろ。自分一人でのぼせてる分には勝手だけどさ、他人を巻き込むなって言うんだ。
That's all Yo can take. Even after shedding tears in front of him, she absolutely refuses to let him hear her cry. Any disgrace would be preferable to breaking down here. So she runs, fleeing breathlessly from the courtyard with Fuminori's cold smile at her back. Then, cold-blooded, Omi was the first to catch sight of Yo and Fuminori leaving for the courtyard. Reluctant to interrupt them, but still unwilling to leave them alone, she and Koji ended up watching the whole thing from the shadows.
あいつ。
Throughout the exchange, Omi was clearly itching to jump out and punch Fuminori in the face. Knowing her temper, Koji kept firm hold of her arm until the end. If he hadn't, she might very well have done it. Fuminori leaves after Yo, his every step seeming to take an act of willpower. Koji sighs heavily into the once more empty courtyard, but the bitter taste in his mouth will not go away.
どうしちまったんだかな、あいつは。
Even Koji cannot forgive Fuminori's treatment of Yo. However, the first thing that he feels is confusion, not anger. Koji has known Fuminori since long before college. Fuminori was never this cruel before. There's no question now that the accident changed him.
ねえコージ、このまま放っておくつもり？
放っておきたくないにしたって俺たちに何ができる？
覗き見よりマシなことよ。
Omi shouts, her face red with fury.
私、咲坂君に一言言ってやらなきゃ気が済まないわ。
それで筑波の気が晴れるってもんでもないだろうに。
だったら私のキーだけでも晴らすわよ。
Yo and Omi are best friends, just like Koji and Fuminori. In fact, it was the relationship between Koji and Omi that brought the other two together. Omi's anger is only natural.
私、咲坂君と二人だけで話してみたいわ。コージはついてこなくてもいいから。
本気かよ。
その代わり、ヨウのことを見ていてあげて。あの子、多分心底傷ついてるから。泣き終わった後で誰かの優しさが必要になると思う。
We're just trying to help our boy Koji out. He can get his harem ending. It's the goal.
なあ、それって俺とお前の役回りが逆じゃないのか？
私みたいな性格だとね、慰め役は無理。励ますつもりで余計に傷跡広げちゃうのがオチなのよ。
なるほど、納得いった。
あ、嫌ない。
じゃあまあ、そっちはほどほどにしとけよな。
Ending the conversation before Omi's mood gets any worse, Koji heads off to find Yo. I feel awful, miserable, but also refreshed. I finally crossed the line. I knew it would come crashing down like this sooner or later, having become unable to feel anything but disgust for other people. There was no way I could hope to maintain the relationships I had had before the accident. Today's incident will definitely get back to Koji and Omi, and everyone will be convinced I've had a major change of character. Honestly, I don't care anymore. At least I probably won't be committed for this. I just need to avoid acting any stranger than I already have. If this puts a rift between me and the others, good. The thought of all the stress I'll avoid brings a smile to my lips. I'm fed up with them sticking their noses into my life. It's like they don't care that they make my gut turn just by being near me. I've been terrified of them until now, but today I struck fear into one of them. In that sense, it's something of a relief, but I'm not entirely without remorse for what happened. The person I just demolished with the verbal equivalent of a nuclear bomb used to be my friend Yo. Even if my senses don't believe it, my mind accepts the theory. I don't have any particular grudge against Yo herself, and I didn't want to hurt her. In retrospect, perhaps I should have just ignored her outright. Yo was an attractive girl. I certainly didn't think badly of her. To be honest, though, I was annoyed when Koji and Omi tried to stick us together. It felt like they were using us as entertainment, and Yo seemed totally oblivious to the fact that she was dancing to their tune. Her cluelessness was irritating. Oh, he doesn't like dumb girls. Yeah, that's like a whole genre. The dumb chicks. And they seem alright at first. But then you realize that they're just dumb. I'm not saying that it's like all women or whatever. It's just there are girls like that out there. Still, I knew that none of them meant any harm. Back then, I didn't have any reason to hurt others just to get my way. If having a casual relationship with Yo would keep our circle of friends together, I was willing to make that compromise. Now, however, there's no room in my heart for such forbearance. If merely talking to someone is an ordeal, then how can I be expected to show them kindness? These ruminations have left me exhausted. I want to return to Saya as soon as possible, but thinking about the packed trains and crowded downtown streets between here and home saps my spirit. Catching sight of a nearby bench, I sit down and close my eyes to the horrors of the world. I can't do anything about the stink or the noise, but at least I can calm my nerves enough to rest. So I'm just sleeping on a park bench like a hobo. When I regained consciousness in the T University hospital ward, the world was as dark as it is now. I had not yet recovered my sight, even though my eyes and optical nerves were undamaged. It must have been an after effect of the accident. Blindness was a shock, but now I know that my suffering then was nothing. After all, my senses of hearing, touch, taste, and smell were all fine at the time. The real horror began when my sight returned. The one small mercy was that I was able to come to terms with the accident and my neurosurgery while still blind. I panicked when I first saw the nightmarish hospital and the blood-curdling shapes of the doctors and nurses, but I soon guessed the cause. It chills me to think what might have happened if I had recovered my sight along with my consciousness. Suddenly awakening in what can only be described as hell, I would no doubt have lost my mind instantly. Soon my disorder spread to the senses of touch, taste, and smell. As it turns out, sight exerts tremendous influence over the other four. The taste of my food, the feel of my bedsheets, the fragrance of my get-well flowers, all became as unbearably foul as my eyes said they should be. Eventually, when even the doctor's voices became unrecognizable as human, I decided to kill myself. I didn't realize for a second that I could live in this new world. At least not until I met Saya. One night, while thinking of a painless way to die, I found myself succumbing to sleep. Drifting between the nightmares in my dreams and the nightmare of reality, I didn't notice her enter my room. The next thing I knew, there was a face staring down at me from next to my bed. The face was not covered in pus or slime or earthworm-like feelers. It had smooth white cheeks, round eyes, a lovely little nose, all things I had never expected to see again. The face was that of a girl, undeniably human and positively glowing with beauty. I sighed in admiration, savoring the first peace and joy since regaining my sight. She had not expected such a reaction, apparently.
怖くないの？私のこと。
She asked, looking at the clock. I saw that it was exactly 3 in the morning. No time for a young girl to be alone in the hospital. Perhaps she expected me to mistake her for a ghost. But I would not have cared if she had been a ghost. Either way, she was a godsend.
君は誰だ？なぜここに？
私はサヤ。パパのこと探しに来たの。
I assumed that she was the daughter of a late shift doctor or another patient. It was unusual, but not unthinkable for such a girl to be wandering around the hospital.
あなた、怖がらないんじゃつまらない。
あ、ちょっと。
I cried, desperate to keep her from leaving. It was only after she turned around that I realized I hadn't thought of what to say next.
何？
Her beautiful eyes drew me in, healing my soul to its core. Through the white haze clouding my mind, I struggled to form a coherent sentence.
女の子にお願いしていいことじゃないんだから今は君にしか頼めない
No longer concerned with propriety, I let the words come as they willed.
手を握らせてもらえないだろうか
Saya looked confused at first, but then she smiled like she just found a new toy. Her smile was brighter than my memories of the sun.
変な人。そんなこと言い出したの、あなたが初めて。
She said, holding out her slender white hand. Ever so carefully, as though catching snowflakes, I placed my palm against hers. I could feel her human warmth in the softness of her delicate fingers. She was there, just beyond the palm of my hand. Thinking back on the joyful tears I shed then, I know that this is the moment I was saved from my fate.
この半月の間に初めて人に触れた人だと感じられる体に
は？
他の人じゃダメなんだ僕事故に遭ってその後遺症らしいんだけど人が人の姿に見えないんだよ
本当に不思議な人。あなたって面白い。明日の夜もまた来ていい？
She said, winding her fingers gently around mine.
ああそりゃもういいのかい
Do I need my
君は
sensor
そんなことをして
for this hand holding, this graphic description of hand holding?
大丈夫よ。夜は私のものだから。
And so our rendezvous began. Saya came to my room every night at 3 a.m., skillfully taking advantage of the duty nurse's shift change. I was astonished to learn that she was living inside the hospital.
これだけ広いと隠れる場所には事欠かないから。
She said, answering my surprise with a nonchalant smile. She had been living in the suburbs with her father, she told me, until one day he'd suddenly stopped coming home. After she had tired of waiting, Saya had decided one night to sneak into the hospital where he'd worked. And there, she lived for over 2 months, searching for his whereabouts all the while.
学校には行かなくていいのかい
いいの。勉強は全部パパに教えてもらったから。サヤはとっても頭がいいんだよ。
She was a strange girl. On the one hand, she looked and acted like a child. On the other, she was remarkably self-reliant and at times exhibited a sharp intelligence and deep knowledge that many may have found unsettling. I didn't care. Saya was the only other human in a world gone mad. Her existence meant far more to me than the standards of society.
危なくないのか見つかりそうになったことは
全然平気。ここにいれば食べるものにも不自由しないし、パパのうちに一人ぼっちでいるよりもずっと楽しいよ。入院してる患者さんたちのうち ちょっと精神的に参ってそうな人を事前にチェックしといてね。
Saya continued, grinning mischievously.
時々部屋に真夜中に忍び込んで脅かしたりするの。その人が大騒ぎしてもそういう患者さんの言うことはみんな真に受けたりしないから、結局は悪い夢ってことで片付けられちゃうし。
Her confession reminded me that the hospital was famous for its ghost stories. Who could have imagined that there was actually a real girl impishly roaming these hallways?
じゃあ僕も最初はそのつもりで。
うん、ごめんね。怒った？
While her pranks were hardly praiseworthy, I couldn't bring myself to scold her for the very thing that had brought us together.
もうやらない方がいい。その代わり夜は僕の話し相手になってくれないか。
さやもその方が楽しい。
With extreme care, I was able to conceal my sensory disorder. It was glaringly obvious that the doctors had no way to cure me, and the fact that I had undergone a still experimental procedure made me even more cautious. As a medical student, it was easy for me to imagine how the doctors would react if they discovered that I was exhibiting such unusual side effects. I was not about to become a guinea pig, a mere specimen to be examined with clinical detachment. This background, or this CG, I guess. It's like, you know, when you've been drinking, and then you wake up the next morning and you're just laying in bed. That's how that that's how that feels. Okay, this is new. And so I hid my discomfort and loathing behind a mask of normalcy, convincing the doctors that any signs of stress were merely a result of hospitalization. Saya was my support. Looking forward to her nightly visits gave me the strength to endure my daily torture. Hope can make an enormous difference in a patient's progress. With the aid of my secret nurse, I recovered at a pace that left the doctors stunned. On the last night before my release, I summoned my courage and asked her,
君はこれからもずっとこの病院に居続けるのかい？
うん、結局パパの手がかりはなかったけど、もう他にいるところもないし、バレそうになるまではいいかなって。
In other words, there was nothing keeping her there.
よかったら僕の家に来ないか？
I asked timidly. The question took all the courage I had.
え？
家族はもういないから部屋はいくらでも余ってる。人目を忍ぶような必要もないし、住み心地もそんなに悪くないんじゃないかと。
ずっと文則と一緒に暮らすの？
I was too afraid to ask her what she thought of that, so I hastily offered a deal.
君の父さんのことは代わりに僕が探してあげる。約束するよ。必ず居場所を見つけてみせる。
難しいと思うよ、それ。
Saya said, looking a little
多
embarrassed.
分パパ、何か悪いことをしてこの病院を辞めたんだと思う。だから警察とかは困るの。なるべくこっそりと探さなきゃいけないし。
頑張るよ。どんなことだってやる。僕は。
Unable to control myself, I finally spoke the truth.
さやと離れたくないんだ。
At first, she looked bewildered, but after a few moments of silence, she said,
少しだけ考えさせて。
That night, she left my room earlier than usual. On the day of my release, I managed to smile as I accepted the hideous, foul-smelling celebratory bouquet. The flesh beasts calling themselves Koji, Omi, and Yo came to pick me up. Though they had come to see me many times during my stay, it never got easier to see my friends change so horribly. My sudden tears of despair drew suspicion, but I managed to explain them away as tears of joy. While we walked to Koji's car, I looked desperately for Saya amid the grotesque scenery. Even as we drove away, I kept watching the hospital fade into the distance, praying for a last glimmer of hope. But Saya never appeared. After Koji and the others dropped me off, I paused a while to regard my surroundings. I had lived my entire life on this block, in this house. There was no other place I could call home. But nothing was as I remembered. As I walked up the path to the front door and took in the yard where I had spent my childhood, I could feel those memories being defiled by the twisted, festering shapes around me. I don't know if my throat's gonna survive reading for however much longer. I think this game is around 4 hours to read through. And we're only an hour in, and my throat feels like it's gonna die, so I might have to split this up into 2 streams. Inside the house, I found nothing familiar, nothing to offer me comfort and warmth. What I had once called home was now a whole other world. I whispered with a smile of self-pity. There was one last stop to make, one last nail to hammer into my coffin. I stepped into the room that had cradled me from childhood. The walls were papered with human entrails. The bed a tangled mass of worm flesh. But none of that mattered. There, curled up on the bed like an abandoned cat, was Saya. As I stood there in shock, she looked up at me and in a tiny, weak voice said, I responded by sweeping her into my arms, embracing her tightly so that she would not escape. Saya did not resist. When she arrives at the Sakisaka house, Omi first takes a deep breath to calm herself. Her anger does not vanish entirely, of course, but at least now she can hear herself think. While waiting for a response from the intercom, she looks over the patch of yard that she can see from outside the gate. Even Omi isn't normally one to complain about other people's housekeeping, but this is going too far. The grass is growing wild. There are piles of dead leaves scattered everywhere. It doesn't just look untended, it looks like an uninhabited ruin. It's still light out, but every window has its storm shutters tightly sealed. Omi guesses that they've been closed since morning. What kind of life is Fuminori leading? Even if he's living alone, he can't neglect his housework forever. And is it just her imagination, or does something stink like rotten meat? It couldn't be coming from the yard, could it? There's still no response, so she presses the buzzer a second time, and a third, and a fourth. Finally, after this has gone on for over 10 minutes, Omi loses her patience and opens the cover of the intercom. As she expected, the power has been disconnected. Perhaps Fuminori has a good reason for shutting out the world, but Omi can only see it as a lack of respect for others. Her anger rekindled, she pushes the gate open and stomps through the yard to the front door. Given the state of his intercom, she doubts that Fuminori will respond to a knock, so Omi decides to just open the door and go in shouting, and if the door is locked, she'll just have to... Surprisingly, the doorknob turns easily in her hand, and the enraged Omi finds herself throwing the door open, wider than she intended. Oh shit. Her nostrils are instantly assaulted by a choking stench. As Omi stands petrified on the threshold, the cowbell hanging on the inside of the door chimes loudly. A moment later, Omi can't believe her ears. The voice she just heard could not have been human, yet its intonations were too complex for any animal she can imagine. She calls out to the end of the hallway from which the voice came. There's no response. Instead, she hears the sound of something soft and wet flopping its way deeper into the house. Finding it difficult to place a meaningful image to the voice she just heard, Omi stares blankly at the empty vestibule. There's nothing there, not even Fuminori's shoes, which can only mean that he's still outside somewhere, wearing them. The house should be empty. But then what was that voice just now? Her anger has vanished, as if it were never there. Nevertheless, Omi sets foot into the hallway, leaving the door open so that the cowbell won't ring. Oh, it's a mistake. Just leave. Classic woman in a horror setting, they just go in and you're like, bitch, get out the room, don't do it, and they just keep going. The floor creaks, setting her nerves on edge. Omi isn't sure why she's acting like a burglar, but something tells her to make as little noise as possible. The potency of the stink outside the house makes the whiff she caught outside pale in comparison. It's sickening, like rotten fish guts. Has food been left to spoil in the kitchen? She hears a bubbling sound up ahead. Stepping gingerly on the creaking floorboards, Omi makes her way to the end of the hallway. She finds rooms to both sides of her, one lit and the other dark, and chooses to look into the lit room. It's the kitchen. Lit by what must be the only window in the house not covered by a storm shutter. The sound she heard was the pot boiling on the stove, and on the chopping board next to it lie a butcher's knife and some half-diced carrots. A perfectly normal household scene, with the light of the setting sun making everything the color of decomposing fruit. Something is wrong. Who was cooking here, and where did they go? Omi calls, regretting it immediately as she realizes that her voice is shaking. As her words echo vainly through the silent house, she begins to feel foolish and defenseless. Suddenly, she feels something cold seeping through her pantyhose. She timidly reaches down to touch her feet. Her fingertips come away covered with a viscous olive green slime, like the filthy water from a tank long clogged with algae and dead fish. The whole floor is covered with it, and must be the source of the stench. Omi now wishes that she had worn her shoes inside. Manners be damned. When she looks back ruefully the way she came, she realizes that her current position is not visible from the entrance. This kitchen must be where that strange voice came from. The next room is probably the den. As she expected from the closed storm shutters, it's pitch black inside. Omi wants nothing more than to flee this house, but that would mean turning her back to the darkness, and that she simply cannot bring herself to do. Moved by some irrational compulsion, Omi sets foot into the den. It's too dark to see anything, and the stink is far worse than before. She slides her hand along the wall, feeling for the light switch, finding it much sooner than she expected. She flips it on like it's her last hope. The colors. The colors. So many colors. The purple of entrails, brown of rotten meat, the crimson of fresh blood, the yellow of fat. These colors and more that cannot be described cover every inch of the room in maddening array. The colors say all that needs to be said about the painter's hatred, malice, and insanity. Omi's legs give out from the shock, sending her to the floor. Slime immediately soaks through her jeans, its cold tendrils creeping up her legs, crotch, and her neck. Her hand flies to her neck, where it's greeted by another drop of chilly slime. Above her, something is dripping down on her head. Making perhaps the worst decision of her life, Omi looks up. The predator clinging to the ceiling, poised to leap upon its prey, she sees it in every detail. Her mouth and nose are sealed before she can scream, and her belly is torn open as something enters to feast on her innards. But by the time she feels any of this, Omi has already gone mad. I bit the bullet and tried to take the train, but the rush hour crowds were so bad that I had to get off halfway and walk. I'm running pretty late. Is Saya worried? I hope she's not mad. When I enter the yard, I realize that the front door has been left wide open. Light from the living room is seeping out into the hallway, and I hear what sounds like someone smacking their lips. There's also a tantalizing fragrance in the air. Is it Saya? I consider calling out to her, but decide to enter in silence instead. Something smells strange, though not unpleasant. The aroma is quite soothing, in fact. It reminds me of Saya's hair. At first, I'm surprised by what I see in the living room. The floor is covered with what looks to be some kind of grass, probably the source of the herb-like smell, and there are fruit or vegetable-like balls of varying size scattered everywhere.
Saya.
While she's eating. How cute. Saya turns around, her eyes wide with surprise. Then she looks away sheepishly, like a child caught at some prank.
何を食べてるんだい？
これはその
She stammers, so flustered that I suddenly feel bad for sneaking up on her. Remembering that she has never eaten in front of me before, I realize that she must be quite embarrassed.
一ついいかな？
Oh, she's vegetarian. That's why she was embarrassed. She's just sitting here eating fruit. I scoop up the closest fruit thing and pop it into my mouth, ignoring Saya's attempt to wave me off. It has a strange texture, soft and pliable, like a peach or a pear. When I bite into it with my back teeth, a succulent juice fills my mouth, combined with a sharp, strong fragrance. It's unlike anything I've ever tasted.
何か味付けとか調理してあるのかこれ？
調理ってほどのことはさばいてからちょっと溶かして食べやすくしただけでほとんど生なんだけど。
I pick up a different lump, this one consisting of fruity flesh around a hard core. Tearing a chunk off in my mouth, I find that it has a similar taste to the last one.
ねえ大丈夫？それって
僕でも食べられる味だ。っていうよりうまいよ、これ。
そうなの？
At first, Saya looks dumbstruck, but then she bursts out laughing.
そうなんだ。ふみのりもこういうのが好きだったんだ。なんだ、あれこれ工夫して頑張ってた私がバカみたい。
さやっていつもこういうものを食べてたのか？
こんな大物は久しぶりだけどね。近所の公園とかで取ってくれるやつ。
There's an impressive nature preserve not too far from here. I've never heard about fruits like these growing there, but, well, of course, they only look like fruits to me. They're really something else.
ごめんね。一番美味しいところはさっきさやが全部食べちゃった。
いいよ、また今度で。でもこれで明日から一緒に食事ができるね。
Saya seems really happy. I'm happy too, of course. Eating with someone is much more fun than eating alone, and it makes the food taste better too.
まだまだいっぱいあるし、食べきれない分は冷やせば2、3日は大丈夫だよ。ちょっと味は落ちるんだけどね。
じゃあ早めに片付けておこうか。
Sealing the small fruits in Tupperware and the large ones in pots and bowls, Saya and I store the remaining food in the refrigerator. Thinking of tomorrow's dinner fills me with anticipation. I feel that, little by little, I'm starting to regain the joy of living. Saya will guide me. With her, I can live on. True Scary Stories, Hospital Edition. Chapter 4, The Monster in the Hospital. A medical student relates his shocking experiences. Will you believe him or not? Strange things started happening at the hospital around the end of last spring. It began with patients waking up in the middle of the night screaming. They all spoke of terrifying nightmares, and many of them had to be sedated. Some patients even transferred to other hospitals because of it. The weird thing was that they'd all had exactly the same dream. A dream about some horribly disgusting monster staring down at them from their bedside. But the really strange stuff started happening after that. There used to be a lot of stray cats around campus looking for scraps from the students. One day, the cats suddenly disappeared. And it wasn't that they stopped coming, it was more like they'd vanished from the area entirely. And then people stopped walking their dogs around. According to rumors, the dogs were refusing to go anywhere near the school. Eventually, things started going missing in the hospital. Organs, to be precise. Transplant organs kept disappearing from storage. People came close to losing their jobs over it. And it wasn't just 2 or 3 times that it happened. They tried to keep it from the students, but we heard it was a lot worse than that. People started saying there was something living in the hospital. The janitors would find strange messes that could only have been made in the middle of the night. Traces of something that had crawled down the hallway, or weird stains caused by something dripping through the ceiling. The late shift nurses talked about hearing strange noises on the same nights that patients woke screaming. There's one last story, one you can never mention inside the hospital. One day, the obstetrics department went crazy. They said that a newborn had disappeared in the night. If that were true, the police would have come, and it would have all been all over the news. But they say the big shots managed to make it all go away. It's just a rumor, of course. These strange incidents suddenly stopped toward the end of summer. Now there are almost no patients complaining of nightmares, and the cats have started coming back to campus. But still, what happened in the hospital that summer? Even now, just thinking about it gives me the creeps. This is the 3rd day in a row they haven't been able to get in touch with Omi. There's no sign that she returned to her apartment, and even her family doesn't know anything. Her parents have already filed a missing persons report.
まあ、あいつのことだからな。何事もなかったみたいに、ひょっこり顔出しそうな気もするんだが。
だといいけど。
Yo replies with a gloomy expression. She's worried about Omi, of course, but the incident with Fuminori 3 days ago must still be weighing on her as well. Yo hasn't seen Fuminori since then, and Fuminori hasn't made any effort to approach her or Koji. 4 people used to meet in this cafeteria between classes, but now there are only 2.
ねえ、トノ君、もう一度考えてみようよ。どこかオミちゃんの行きそうな場所に心当たりない？
いや、一通りは確かめたしな。
It's a lie, of course. Koji knows where Omi planned to go that evening, but he doesn't want to bring Fuminori up in front of Yo. Their awkward silence is mercifully broken by the bell, signaling the start of the next period.
じゃあ、俺行くわ。
Unless Koji is mistaken, Yo is supposed to have class next period too, but she just sits there, staring off into space. Unable to come up with anything to say, he leaves the cafeteria reluctantly. Both Omi's disappearance and Yo's depression worry Koji, and both problems lead back to the exact same place. When Omi went missing, the first thing he did was question Fuminori. After all, the last time he'd seen her was just before she stormed off to give Fuminori a piece of her mind. Fuminori responded with unequivocal denial, and acted like he hadn't the slightest idea why Omi would have gone to see him. Perhaps that was only natural, as he was unaware that Omi and Koji had witnessed him reduce Yo to tears. Did Omi even make it to Fuminori's house? She had been riding a wave of emotion when she left, and might have calmed down and changed her mind halfway there. Or perhaps she ran into trouble on the way? Koji concluded, or more accurately convinced himself, that one of these possibilities was the truth, subconsciously denying the one remaining possibility, that Fuminori was lying, that he had met Omi and was involved with her disappearance. When questioned by the police, Koji told the truth about Omi's destination only up to the train station, maintaining that he had no idea where she'd planned to go after that. He wanted to cooperate with the search, of course, but Omi couldn't have made it to Fuminori's house. Fuminori said so himself, didn't he? In that case, he told the police everything they needed to know. Not wanting to get the still fragile Fuminori involved, he forced himself to accept this flimsy logic. But the conflict had built up inside of him without his notice, leaving unanswered suspicion to fester in his mind. Koji is deep in thought, paying no attention to his surroundings, but perhaps that is what allows him to catch sight of his friend's back through the crowd of milling students. At first, Koji assumes that he's headed to the lecture hall, but it soon appears that he is instead going home. Strange. Medical students have required courses in the afternoon. Though he is initially surprised, Koji's hesitation lasts for only a second. He follows his friend, taking care to stay far enough behind that he won't be noticed. Fuminori wasn't going home, as became obvious when he boarded a train heading in the opposite direction. Koji's next guess was that he was going to see his doctor at the T University Hospital, but Fuminori rode straight through the closest station. At first, Koji felt ashamed for tailing his friend like this, but his conscience fell silent as Fuminori's actions grew more mysterious. The stranger it gets, the closer Koji feels to discovering the truth behind Fuminori's sudden transformation. Any knowledge would be welcome, no matter how slight. Even Koji is beginning to think that there must be more behind Fuminori's change than the accident alone. He wants a more satisfying answer, one that will help him decide whether Fuminori can still be trusted. Fuminori gets off at a small station in a nondescript suburb of Tokyo. Koji follows, trying not to lose sight of him amid the other disembarking passengers. The area is quite desolate, with only a small bookstore, a convenience store, and a market in front of the train station. It's easy for Koji to keep Fuminori in view. This neighborhood was carved out from the Fuji foothills, and here and there remain steep inclines and wooded areas that escaped assimilation. Koji is amazed that such a quiet place exists less than an hour out of central Tokyo. This looks like a photographic background, like they just took a picture and put a filter over it. So I wonder where it is. Fuminori seems to know these streets. He moves quickly and purposefully through the suburban community, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Before long, Fuminori reaches the house. Without ringing the bell or even knocking, he opens the door and vanishes inside, leaving Koji to wonder how Fuminori can treat the house as his own. After waiting to see if Fuminori comes back out, Koji approaches the gate and checks the nameplate. Ogai, it reads. Koji has never heard of anyone by that name among Fuminori's acquaintances. Next, his attention is drawn to the thick wad of leaflets sticking out of the mail slot. This, coupled with the general dilapidated feel of the place, suggests that it has been abandoned for some time. A small playground about 2 blocks away provides an adequate vantage point from which to watch the front of the Ogai home. Fortunately, it does not appear to be the sort of house that has a rear exit. Koji settles down on a bench to begin his stakeout. I should have brought more smokes. 1 hour passes, then another, but there remains no sign of movement around the Ogai residence. Soon, twilight settles upon the neighborhood. After Koji's 1 pack of cigarettes runs out, the stakeout becomes a battle against mounting impatience. He kills time by redialing Omi on his cell and sending her short text messages, but his efforts are futile, as he knew they would be. When the sky begins to turn deep blue and the street lights come on, Fuminori finally emerges from the house and heads back toward the station with the same hurried stride. After some brief consideration, Koji decides that right now investigating the house is more important than tailing Fuminori. He rings the doorbell just to make sure. After receiving the expected silence in response, he checks to make sure no one is watching and turns the doorknob. The door is not locked. The moment he enters the house, stale air thick with mold and dust fills Koji's nostrils. It is the unmistakable smell of a house that has long lain untouched. There is also a faint hint of something else in the air, something reminiscent of damp sewers and fetid cisterns. Flipping the light switch does nothing. The power must be cut off. Koji uses his cigarette lighter to illuminate the immediate area. In the thick dust covering the floor, he sees several brand new trails of footprints that could only have been made by shoes, Fuminori's. Koji decides to follow suit and dispense with courtesy. He enters with his shoes on. Ooh, a rebel. The light's flickering flame pushes back the deathly silence and gloom of the house. Koji is surprised to see evidence of life remaining. Everything from furniture to tableware and appliances, nothing seems to be missing. The thickness of the dust suggests that the house has been empty for several months, which means that the owner must have left with little more than the clothes on his back. Could he have gone on a long vacation? You could say that, I guess. The calendar in the den is still turned to April. Empty and silent, yet still exhibiting signs of the life that was once lived there, the house reminds Koji of a passenger ship entombed at the bottom of the sea. In the graveyard-like quiet, a sinister thought suddenly enters his mind. No one is living here, but that does not have to mean that the owner left. Maybe he was murdered, and his rotting corpse is right under Koji's feet. He finds himself wanting a stronger light. A flashlight in his hand would make him feel much better. Koji follows Fuminori's footsteps to the second floor, where he begins to catch the scent of paper in the stale air. It is the smell of old books, instantly recognizable to anyone who has worked in an antique bookstore or library. The first room on the second floor turns out to be a study. Its towering shelves packed with such a vast number of books that Koji fears for the stability of the floor. As a medical student himself, he is able to discern at a glance that the study belonged to a medical professional, and a high-level one at that. Maybe he knows what MRIs are, even. Judging by the content of the books, a smorgasbord of technical volumes far beyond a simple student's understanding, the owner's interests lie more with medical research than with clinical practice. Fuminori must have spent most of his time here. The scattered dust suggests that he was searching for something, and the contents of the desk drawers are in obvious disarray. A small pile of books stacked on the side table catches his eye. Being next to the desk, they must have been the most frequently read. Their nature could shed some light on the character of the person who worked here. Koji frowns as he examines the 3 books. These aren't scientific texts like the rest, but old leather-bound Western tomes like the sort you would find in a rare bookstore. The titles are meaningless to him. Some French shit appears not to concern semiotics, but this other thing is some kind of treatise on divination. And then there's the Voynich manuscript, which looks like some sort of picture book. When he pages through it, he finds the text utterly incomprehensible. Maybe it's some kind of cipher? Wasn't that in Demon Bane? Yeah, I'm gonna Google this real quick. Oh yeah, I think I looked this up before. So it's a real thing. It's a manuscript written in the 15th century that's in some code that I guess they've never been able to crack. Yeah, it says it's never been deciphered on Wikipedia. Whatever they are, they clearly have nothing to do with medicine, refuting Koji's earlier guess that this O-guy was a doctor. Looking down, Koji suddenly notices the glint of something black and metallic underneath the chair. A pocket-sized flashlight, quite out of place among all these dusty books. Fuminori must have brought it in. With relief, Koji exchanges his lighter for the flashlight. Its tiny body emits a powerful white beam that casts away the darkness. His courage restored, he decides to explore the rest of the house. Koji notices something strange, something that was not visible in the lighter's weak flame. The slime. Dark, oily stains are everywhere. The stains are especially thick around the doorknobs and stair banisters, like someone grasped them with hands wrapped in greasy cloth. Looking closer, he sees places where slime is splashed low on the walls, almost as if a wet mop was run violently across the floor. Could Ogai have made these marks? If so, how? Koji begins to feel sick as he imagines a man shambling through the house with slime dripping from his body. Finding the bedroom next to the study, Koji checks the closet on a hunch. He discovers 2 empty suitcases, not what one would leave behind when going on a long vacation. A sudden chill runs through him. Whoever was living here is still somewhere inside the house. Suppressing the urge to flee, Koji goes back downstairs to check the first floor. If he finds a corpse, he'll have to call the police right away. He might get away with trespassing if he reports it first, but if they find the body later, it'll be awfully hard to explain his fingerprints all over the house. The flashlight reveals the den to be covered in even more slime than the rest of the house. The sofa looks as though it was dredged from the bottom of a swamp. In the kitchen, Koji takes one look at the sink and decides not to get any closer. He doesn't want any more fuel for his imagination. He reaches the door to the bathroom. A common scene from TV dramas flashes through his head, a body with slit wrists floating in a bathtub full of water. And wasn't there a movie where a hitman disposes of his victim in a bathtub filled with lye? Koji braces himself for the worst and opens the door slowly, then shines his light into the ceramic bathtub that appears from the darkness like a white ghost. Bones. A mountain of bones, black with dry flesh and blood. Koji puts one hand against the wall to steady himself as his legs starting to buckle. Something is wrong, he realizes as he tries desperately to get his thoughts in order. The bones are too small, and there are too many of them. They aren't human. After taking several deep breaths to calm himself, Koji enters the bathroom and examines the tub. The bones are piled atop each other like fallen leaves. They appear to be from small animals, perhaps cats or dogs. Even so, the quantity is mind-boggling. How many bodies would it take to produce this many bones? The bones have all been separated from one another, so it doesn't look like bodies were just thrown into the tub and left to rot. Each bone is covered with deep grooves, marks left by teeth biting through flesh. Koji's sanity won't let him consider the possibility that a human could have done this. The owner of this house must have kept some sort of carnivorous animal as a pet, giving it the bones of small animals to eat and disposing of the remains in the bathtub. But why not dispose of the leftovers properly? They could have just been thrown out with the garbage, or was there something keeping him from leaving the house? The relief Koji felt when he realized that the bones weren't human is once again under attack. In the first place, what the hell was Fuminori doing here?
どうした、コウジ?
Uh-oh. Koji rolls around, his light revealing Fuminori's expressionless face.
不法侵入だぞ、コウジ。
お前だって同じだろうが。
Koji replies, barely managing to speak over the pounding of his heart. Fuminori pushes past Koji and looks into the bathtub. He doesn't even flinch at the sight of the
僕は
bones.
この家の人と知り合いなんだ。頼まれて探し物をしに来ただけさ。
知り合いっていつから？一体何者なんだ？
Koji doesn't want to believe that the old friendly Fuminori could have had contact with the denizens of this
い
house.
ずれお前にも紹介するよ。僕の恩人とも言える人だから。
おい、文則。
Koji runs after Fuminori. His heart is finally beating normally again.
お前まさか近頃様子がおかしいのはその知り合いっていうやつのせいなんじゃ。
Standing in the entrance, Fuminori glares coldly at Koji over his shoulder. The utter lack of emotion in his eyes gives Koji pause.
僕の後をつけてきたんだね。コウジ
Koji swallows. What can he say?
そういうのは迷惑だ。二度とやらないでもらいたい。
ああ。
Fuminori walks away without another word, leaving Koji alone in the entrance. Up until this very moment, concern for his friend was still at the forefront of his mind. Now, however, that concern is swiftly giving way to a growing sense of dread. Does the Fuminori he knew no longer exist? Was the person who just stared Koji down an imposter wearing Fuminori's skin? Koji has begun to believe that it might be so. What a nuisance. Why does he insist on interfering? If he only spoke with me to exchange pleasantries, even I could bear it, but now he's sticking his nose into my business just to satisfy his curiosity. Koji's a perfect example of someone who thinks that it's always good to take an interest in other people's affairs. He probably thinks that he's doing me a favor by prying into my life. He couldn't be more wrong. If he keeps this up, I might have to find some way to deal with him. Like Saya said, I have to keep my search for Dr. Ogai a secret. Koji could ruin everything. I didn't have time to fully investigate the Ogai residence today. At this rate, it will probably take several days just to go through the study. Saya didn't believe that I'd find anything to help with the search, but I think there's still a lot to explore. Who knows what I'll discover? The problem is Koji. He knows about the house now. Will he make things difficult? A hair-raising voice calls as I'm about to pass through my gate. Suppressing a shudder, I put on a fake smile and turn to face the writhing mass of rotten flesh that is staring at me with bulging eyes. Ah, of course. It's my next-door neighbor, Suzumi, a middle-aged painter, I think, who spends all day at home while his wife works. Oh, living the dream. Oh, I would love to be a stay-at-home dad. I haven't had much contact with him since the accident. Why is he suddenly talking to me now? What is this? Did you stop me just to deliver a lecture? Oh, hello. The flesh beast undulates foully, as though it still has something to say. The sight of it is driving me close to the edge. Oh, the neighbor's lecturing me about the yard. Now I get it. He's worried that the unsightliness of my house might diminish the image of his own. Damn snob. I flash a token smile, then retreat behind the safety of my gate. I can feel Suzumi's eyes boring into my back, all the way to the front door. Why won't everyone stay out of my life? I just want to live together with Saya, alone where no one will ever bother us. Oh, it's our neighbor. Suzumi Yosuke sighs in annoyance as he watches the neighbor boy retreat into his house. Oh, these dang millennials. They don't take care of their yards. They don't talk to their neighbors. What's with his attitude? Even while talking, he kept his eyes averted, as if to avoid looking at something repulsive. Has he always been such an unpleasant young man? No, of course not. When his parents were still alive, he had been a normal youth, a little shy but sensitive and caring. It must be the stress of his sad situation. If it continues to build, he might start to develop serious mental problems. Or is it too late already? Yosuke wonders as he gazes wearily at the Sakisaki yard. Even during dinner, Yosuke can't shake the neighboring house from his mind.
どうしたのあなた難しそうな顔して
今日ね隣の家の息子に会ったよ
お隣のって文則お兄ちゃん
ああ庭のこと一言言っておいた
Fuminori Oni-chan.
そうよね。せめてあの匂いだけはどうにかしてもらいたいわよね。
The stink coming from the Sakisaka house grows worse each day, and the Suzumi family is at its wits' end.
あの草むらの中に死んだ猫でもいるんじゃないかしら。でも住んでいて気づかないのかしらね、あの匂いに。
まさかとは思うが、生ゴミをそのまま庭に捨てているんじゃあるまいな。
そんな、いくらなんでもそこまで。
いや、今の様子だとやりかねん。一日中ずっと雨戸を閉め切って何をやってるのかもわからない。どうい
お兄ちゃん、頭おかしくなっちゃったのかな。
これヒロミ、そういう言い方はダメよ。
いや、あれは本当にちょっとどうすぎてる。ひょっとしたら変質狂か何かかもしれんな。
大丈夫なのそれ。
早く自覚して医者にでも行ってもらわんことにはなんともな。
The seconds crawl by, each tick of the clock compounding my agony. When I returned from the Yogai residence, I was greeted by a silent, empty home. Saya had vanished without leaving any clue as to her whereabouts. It isn't rare for her to go for walks at night. I've often gone with her, however, such outings always take place in the middle of the night, when no one is around. It never lasts for more than 2 hours. Right now it's 5 in the morning. Soon the sky will begin to show the first light of dawn. Even if she left right before I returned, she's still been gone for almost half a day. I can't sleep, I can only wait in anguish. I tried to distract myself by painting more rooms, but I couldn't concentrate on the work. If I had known this would happen, I would have left the Yogai house sooner. I wish I hadn't wasted time on Koji. If Saya doesn't return, the thought makes me want to tear out my hair. After its long absence, the terror of true loneliness is too much to bear.
ただいま。
At last, the cowbell chimes and Saya's long-awaited "I'm home" rings out from the bottom of the stairs. As I jump out of my bed in relief, all of the stress that has built up through the night is released in a wave that threatens to sweep me off my feet.
疲れた。やっぱり往復すると遠いな。
Saya sighs as she climbs the
さ
stairs.
や、一体どこに？
My question trails off as I notice the thick bundles of paper that she's carrying under her arms.
それは
文則のカルテとか手術の記録。今日は古巣の病院に行ってきたの。
Saya drops her bundles on the floor, sending paper flying everywhere, then pulls her favorite cushion over and collapses into it, stretching luxuriously.
こんな夜中に T 台から歩いて戻ってきたのか。
ごめんね。本当はもっと早く帰れると思ってたんだけど、調べ出したらキリがなくて。
She says, skillfully gathering the scattered papers together.
結局全部持ち出してきちゃった。ああ、重かった。
Maybe it's just the exhaustion, but I'm not understanding a word Saya is
だ
saying.
からそんなもの持ってきてどうするつもりなんだ。
どうするって、もちろん調べるのよ。うちで時間かけてじっくり。
She replies, holding one MRI photograph after another up to the light.
えっと、
At first, I think she's just playing around, but the occasional mutters of, ah, better check this one. Oh, I see. Well, that was silly of
こ
them.
れは要チェックかな。
And the like, as she separates photos into a growing pile beside her, make me think that this might not be a joke after all.
なんだかな。
君わかるのか、こういうの。
パパにいろいろと教わったから。なるほどね。そういうこと。これじゃあいつまで経っても直せないよね。
直せないのか。
人間のお医者さんじゃね。
I can't tell if she's being serious.
私でもまだちょっと難しいかな。いろいろと試してからでないと。
She says offhandedly, even as her hands continue to shuffle papers. Watching more closely, I realized that her eyes are scanning each page rapidly, so rapidly in fact that I was unable to notice it at first. Could Saya actually be reading my charts?
今日はもう疲れたし、寝ないか？
文則がそうしたいならそうする。
Was it sexy time again? Yeah, it is. Saya tosses aside the papers she was sorting, then leaps on me and begins to tear off my clothes.
おい、
ねえ、寝る前に一回だけね、いいでしょ？
マサヤ、こう毎日続けてちゃ体に毒じゃないのか？
え、文則、どこか具合が悪いの？
いや、僕は別にちゃんと大人の体になってるし平気なんだけど、でもサヤはまだ。
平気だよ。
She laughs playfully as she pushes me onto the bed, the familiar sweet sensation of her weight and skin rendering me helpless.
平気なわけないだろ。今まで否認もしてないってのに。
文則はさ、さやに子供を産ませるの嫌？
How can I respond to that? Yeah, be pregnant.
いやも何も、サヤみたいに小さい体じゃ無理だって。母体の負担ってのは大変なんだぞ。
文則が心配してることって割と的外れなんだけど。でもそれって文則がさやのことを大事に思ってくれてるからなんだよね。それはそれで嬉しい。
By the time I break the spell of her angelic smile, Saya has undone my belt and is removing my pants. Hell yeah.
なおい、だからサヤ。
大丈夫。じゃあ今夜は文則が心配しないような方法でしてあげる。
Okay. Thought I was gonna have to throw out my sensor real quick. As she finishes, she looks up at me, smiling like she just pulled the greatest prank of her
これ
life.
だったら文則だって心配ないでしょ？ね
いや、まあ。
Yeah, living the dream. What am I supposed to say to that?
え、ダメだった？こういうのだと気持ちよくない？
Hearing the sudden nervousness in Saya's voice, I hastily stammer.
そんなことない。十分によかった。でもさや、何もあんなもの飲み込まなくたって。
そんな。あれはさやにちょうだいよ。
Suddenly distraught, Saya clings to me like a child who's just had her candy stolen.
文則のは一滴だって残さずに欲しい。
中に。
So Saya really does want to bear my child? I'm not averse to the idea. I still think it might be too early, of course. But there isn't much point in worrying about my reputation now. Assuming that Saya and I will be left alone, I even welcome it.
文則は嫌？
She gazes up at me pleadingly. How can I resist?
嫌なんかじゃないさ。さやさえそれでいいのなら、僕だって。
Saya smiles with relief and burrows contentedly into my chest.
文則大好き。
With her body draped over mine, I become even more aware of how light and delicate she is. Can this tiny girl and I really live as husband and wife? I feel a pang of self-loathing at the question. How can I still be afraid after all that's happened? Saya's feelings are so earnest. How can I not accept them? I need to resolve once and for all to rid myself of the useless trappings of morality. Saya and I are all that matters. There's no point worrying about what others think anymore. Although I suppose I should still talk to Saya's guardian, of course. I need to find Dr. Ogai as soon as possible. Yeah, you just create your own morality. It's the master morality, you know? You don't bother with that slave morality shit. You break the old tablets and create the new ones or whatever. By the time I drift to sleep in exhaustion's comforting embrace, all doubts about Saya's actions have vanished from my mind. Whatever the case, all that matters is that she's returned to me. "2 o'clock. For Suzumi Yosuke, this is the most fulfilling time of day. After seeing his wife and daughter off taking care of the morning chores and eating a leisurely lunch, it's finally time to sit down at his easel. He's not a particularly popular painter, and he would only hold an exhibition if he were hurting for money. However, the design work he does on the side ensures that there's always enough to support his lifestyle. You gotta start a skeb. Alongside the salary his wife earns working for a magazine, they're able to pay their mortgage, send their daughter to school, and still have plenty left over. Yosuke's life is perfect, leisurely, and absent of want. He loves his house, considering it the symbol of his success. When he mows the lawn, polishes the windows and floors, and cleans the kitchen, toilet, and bath, he feels the same joy as he does when washing his own body. It's kind of a weirdo. Just as he knows the length of his fingernails and the time since his last meal, he also knows everything about his home's condition, the status of every door, the freshness of every flower, the amount of ice in the ice tray, every last detail. This is his pride. And when he sits in his studio, smelling the turpentine and knowing that each element of his house is in perfect order, he feels the ultimate satisfaction. While trying to find the right combination of paints on his palette, he suddenly feels thirsty, but soon remembers that there isn't much orange juice left in the refrigerator. Oh man. In fact, it's also about time to stock up on bath additive and powdered soap. He could get everything at the supermarket when he goes to shop for dinner, but it will probably be quite heavy. Now then, where should I leave off to go shopping? As he ponders this dilemma, he heads downstairs to the kitchen. Just then, a breath of air tickles the back of his neck, bringing him to a halt in the middle of the hallway. A breeze. Impossible. Every window in the house is closed. Yosuke shut them himself during his morning cleaning. Yosuke enters the living room, searching for the source of the breeze. Something stinks. It's the same pungent smell of fetid swampland that emanates from the Sakisaka house. The window facing the yard next door is open, its curtains billowing loosely in the gentle breeze. There's a hole in the glass next to the lock. It looks strange, like it was melted by some chemical instead of broken. Someone must have reached through the hole to unlock the window. Yosuke stands paralyzed, his heart pounding with anger and fear. He listens carefully, but hears nothing. Perhaps the intruder has already finished his business and left, but a burglar wouldn't have left the room untouched, would he? Maybe he heard Yosuke coming and hid somewhere nearby. Yosuke realizes that his still wet palette knife is in his right hand. He must have forgotten to put it aside before going downstairs. He stares numbly at the knife for a moment, then decides that it's not enough protection. Instead, he grabs the ashtray sitting on top of the table. Made of thick, solid glass, it is big and heavy enough to serve as a weapon. The home that he thought of as part of himself now seems utterly alien. Keenly aware of the thumping of his heart, Yosuke looks around the living room and sees little that could be used as a hiding place. The intruder must have gone either to the guest room or through the dining room to the kitchen. The kitchen is close to the stairs. If there had been movement, Yosuke would have noticed it when he came down, which meant that the guest room is the most likely place. He shuffles over to the guest room door and prepares to slide it open. But what is that stench? Could the breeze alone carry something so foul? It's as if the odor is coming from inside the room. He readies his ashtray and throws open the door. The straw-matted Japanese-style room is empty. There's a closet, but no one could fit in there. So the intruder already left. Yosuke relaxes, the exhaustion of sudden relief coming over him. And that's when something seizes his ankle. The instant he freezes in shock, his leg is yanked out from under him, sending him crashing to the floor. Stars explode behind his eyes as his head smacks against the door rail. The hand, if it can even be called that, wrapped around Yosuke's ankle, extends all the way back to beneath the living room sofa. There are barely 5 centimeters between the sofa and the floor. Whatever is hiding there, it can't possibly be human. Before the screaming Yosuke can regain his footing, countless hand-like appendages seize his arms and legs, rendering him helpless. Aw, Sai is so cute. As the hideous voice burbles in his ear, something cold and soft crawls atop him. Yosuke can't even scream, his terror is so great. Thin, tube-like appendages penetrate his ears and nose, wriggling deep into his skull. Right before the sensation drives him mad, Yosuke loses consciousness. Koji says, his humble bow concealing his surprise at the doctor's youth. Even without her light makeup, she wouldn't look a day over 30. She must be quite talented to be a leading neurosurgeon at such a young age.
いいのよ。あなたたちみたいな人が来てくれたのは私としてもありがたいところだし。
Her friendly smile has none of the coldness one might expect from her sharp, refined beauty.
はじめまして。崎坂文則君の主治医の丹保です。
文則の友人で殿尾浩二と言います。彼女は筑波陽。
崎坂君の件について話が聞きたいっていうことだけど、それは私の方でも同じでね。
はあ。
彼、一昨日の診察に来てくれなかったのよ。留守電に入れた伝言にも返事がないし。
2 days ago, the same day Fuminori was searching that abandoned house. Koji frowns, wondering what was important enough for him to blow off his appointment.
彼、学校ではどんな様子？
どうもこうも、もうめちゃくちゃです。
Seeing Yo's shoulders jerk out of the corner of his eye, Koji regrets not choosing his words more carefully.
事故の前とまるで人が違ったみたいに見えます。僕たちもいろいろとどうしていいかわからなくて、それで今日は先生の話を伺えたらと。
あなたたちも医大生？
はい。
彼のカルテ見てみたいと思う。
見せてくれるんですか、そんなもの。
そう思った人がいるみたいなのよ。それも病院には無断でね。
Dr. Tombo regards him silently for a moment, then sighs and says what she just said.
この病院に誰かが押し入ってね。保管庫から崎坂君のカルテを盗んでいったの。
本当ですか？
She stares hard at the astonished students, then shakes her head with a tired smile.
あなたたちは無関係そうね。ちょっと安心したわ。
当たり前です。
でも犯人は崎坂君の容体に興味があるか、それとも彼の治療記録を消したかったのか、いずれにせよ彼に関わりのある人間としか思えないわ。
An ominous thought flashes through Koji's mind. It couldn't have been Fuminori himself, could it? Koji looks at Dr. Tombo and finds her staring right back at him, her expression grave. He realizes that she must be harboring the same suspicion.
あなたには他に心当たりはない？咲坂君の知り合いでそういうことをやりかねないような人。
Perhaps Dr. Tombo didn't have anyone in mind when she asked, but Koji's thoughts immediately fly to that eerie house to which Fuminori led him.
知り合いだか何なのか自分にもよくわからないんですが、多分医者か医学関係の人で鴎外っていう。
Koji stops speaking and sees the dramatic change that has come across Dr. Tombo's expression.
ご存知なんですか？
咲坂君がその男といつどうやって知り合ったのかわかる？
いえ、こっちが知りたいぐらいです。先生、一体何者なんですか？あの鴎外っていう人は。
After remaining silent for some time, Dr. Tombo looses a heavy sigh.
いいわ。その気になれば簡単に調べがつくことだし。いろいろと不祥事があって半年以上前に免職になったけど。
不祥事って一体何を？
そこから先は部外者に話せることじゃないわ。どのみち咲坂君には何の関係もないことよ。
Koji has no argument with which to answer Dr. Tombo's flat rejection. However, he can't shake the feeling that this Ogai person is the key to unraveling the mysteries surrounding Fuminori.
先生、もしかしたら咲坂文則は刑事事件に関わっているかもしれないんです。
At this sudden declaration, both Yo and Dr. Tombo raised their eyebrows.
どういうこと？
彼を訪ねていったっきり行方不明になってしまった人間がいます。もちろん文則は否定していますが。
それって近江ちゃんのこと？
Koji is unable to bear the shock in Yo's voice.
すまん、つくば。君には言えなかった。
Dr. Tombo is frowning, her expression even more serious than
そ
before.
の鴎外という人物が今文則の関心の焦点になっているらしいんです。彼が何者で文則が彼の何について探っているのか、それが分かれば少しは事情が見えてくるかもしれません。お願いです、先生、教えてください。この病院で一体何があったんですか？
Dr. Tombo hesitates for some time, refusing to make eye contact, but she finally shakes her head.
ごめんなさい。こればかりは私の一存で話せる事柄じゃないの。
先生。
でも少しだけ待って。私は私なりにいろいろと調べてみる。放っておける状況じゃないのはよく理解できたから。
お願いします。
お互い携帯の番号を交換しておきましょう。何か分かったら連絡するわ。
ええ、わかりました。
Hello? Oh. What the? What happened to me? Yosuke's awareness returns slowly, as though rising from a bog. He's cold. No, hot. Something itches, like tepid tongues and cold slugs crawling over his skin. What the hell's going on? Timidly, he opens his eyes. What? It's everywhere. The thing that attacked him in the living room, it's everywhere. Terror shatters Yosuke's sanity. He throws off the thing lying atop him, but his wild flailing sends him crashing to the floor. But is it really the floor? The long, wriggling fibers of what should be the carpet are winding themselves around his fingers. The floor is made of worms. He tears his limbs free of the worms and tries to stand, but loses his balance and tumbles to the floor again. The worms immediately swarm over his body. Where am I? Where'd that thing take me? Yosuke crawls across the worm-ridden floor toward the only exit from the pulsating room. When he gets outside, however, all he can see is blood, bile, and rotten meat. There's no place to run. Most terrifying of all, this hellish place has the same layout as Yosuke's house. In a half-mad daze, he wanders through the nightmarish mockery of his home. In the small room where his studio should be, he finds an easel made of bones displaying a blood-soaked canvas. Like some cruel joke, everything is exactly where it would be in Yosuke's studio. Howling, Yosuke lashes out against everything within reach. The easel of bone shatters, driving splinters into his fist. He feels the pain, but does not wake from the nightmare. If this isn't a dream, then what is it? When his strength gives out, Yosuke falls to his knees sobbing. For the first time in his life, he prays. The sound of the door opening and closing grates on his ears. Downstairs, the front door, is someone else here? Yosuke trembles at the blood-curdling sound. It's that thing again. The monster has returned. Yosuke hears the sound of something slimy sloshing its way up the stairs. Even as he cowers in terror, he slides his trembling hand across the floor and grabs one of the bones from the broken easel. The tip of the bone is nice and sharp. If he holds it in both hands and puts his weight behind it, he might be able to use it to defend himself. The monster's growls are getting closer. Holding his breath, Yosuke presses his back against the wall next to the door. Uh-oh. He's about to kill his family. Close it? Okay. The pounding of his heart is like thunder in his ears, so loud that he fears the creature might hear it. He knows it will eat him if it finds him again, but it's all he can do to keep from crying. At last, the door creaks open. Yosuke leaps on the creature as it enters, fear turning his roar into a high-pitched scream. The flesh beast is covered in sludge and vile juices, but before horror can paralyze him, Yosuke brings his bone stake stabbing down. The monster screams as the stake pierces its chest and punches through to the other side. It falls back, writhing in agony. The sight of its pain sets Yosuke's blood on fire. I can win. I can kill it. If I finish it off before it enters my head again, I'm safe. Yosuke grabs the bone and twists with all his might. The monster convulses and gurgles, its trembling tentacles reaching up as though begging for help. Yosuke knocks it to the floor, then brings his heel crashing down on its flopping body again and again. With each stomp, its groans and spasms grow weaker. When the monster at last stops twitching, Yosuke, panting hard, tears the stake from its corpse and rises to his feet. Yosuke turns around to see another, smaller monster peeking out at him from the stair landing. There's still one left. His desperate, rage-filled attack both exhilarated him and gave him a taste for violence. This one will be easier. It's smaller and weaker. Grinning maniacally, Yosuke raises his stake and moves toward the second creature. The monster flees, screaming down the stairs. Not about to let his prey escape, Yosuke roars and gives chase. The thought that killing the monsters might end this nightmare feeds his savage bloodlust. Pretty fucked up. When the monster trips and falls in the dining room, Yosuke leaps on top of it and brings the steak crashing down. His bloodlust unsated, he pulls it free, then drives it again into the monster's flesh, once, twice, 3 times, and more, until there's nothing left but shredded, pulverized meat. Eventually, the only sound in the house is Yosuke's heavy breathing. He has slain 2 monsters, but the nightmare shows no sign of ending. Yosuke staggers to the front door and goes outside. The sky, the city, everything has gone mad. Twisted shapes, nauseating colors, stinking air. There's no escape, no end to the nightmare. The last remnant of Yosuke's sanity vanishes like dust in the wind.
こんにちは、おじさん。
Yosuke turns to the sound of a girl's voice. Oh, it's Saya. She's standing in front of the house next door, wearing a spotless one piece over her pure white skin. In the midst of this filth-ridden world, she alone glows with
お
beauty.
じさんには私がどう見える？
ああ、とっても可愛いよ。
Yosuke feels a sudden black lust rise within
本
him.
当？じゃあ実験は成功かも。
Yosuke walks up to the strangely jubilant girl and brushes his hand against her long, smooth hair.
こんな可愛らしい女の子はこの世界には君一人しかいないんだろうね。
おじさん？
She looks up at the man towering over her, perhaps disturbed by his hungry stare.
お嬢ちゃん、おじさんと遊んでくれるかい？
いいけど、何するの？
A grin parts Yosuke's lips and he replies,
そりゃあもうおじさんが楽しめそうなこと全部さ。
That doesn't sound like a very fun game. With that, he grabs the girl's collar and tears the front of her dress wide open. Shock and fear twist the lovely girl's delicate features, stimulating Yosuke's sadism. Even after killing those 2 monsters, the embers of violence still smolder in his heart, and now they have fuel to burn.
いい顔だよ、お嬢ちゃん。おじさんにもっと可愛らしい顔をして見せてくれないかい？
The terrified girl flees into the Sakisaka house. Yosuke runs after her, feeling the joy of the hunt.
いや、来ないで！
Even in desperation, she has no hope of outrunning his longer stride. Yosuke charges down the hallway and catches up to her in the kitchen. He grabs her from behind and wrestles her to the floor before she can resist.
話して。そんな、どうしてなの？
だから言っただろう。お嬢ちゃんが可愛らしすぎるからだって。
Enjoying the sensation of her thin arm struggling futilely against his grip, Yosuke uses his weight to hold her down while ripping off her remaining scraps of clothing. Oh, he's a gross old guy. Yosuke stares at the smooth, perfect body of the girl flopping beneath him. The thought of violating such an immaculate creature amid the horrors of this twisted world is irresistibly erotic. Yosuke runs his tongue over her stomach and chest. Belly and chest erotic. As though preparing to eat her whole, she stiffens and whimpers at the sensation.
こんなはずじゃないのに。
Yeah, he's ready to correct this brat, messing with his brain. Her tear-choked voice satisfies Yosuke's lust for conquest. This nightmare has violated him, but now he is able to visit the same torment on this innocent girl. Where he was the victim, he is now the victimizer. The release he feels is intoxicating. No, these lines aren't voiced for some reason. No, stop. I'm scared. Fuminori. I haven't even done anything yet. Putting his mouth close to the sobbing girl's ear, Yosuke whispers, "If you're this scared already, how will you scream when I put it in you?" Help me, Fuminori. As always, the sights of the city grate on my nerves. Today, however, I don't feel as much hatred as I usually do. I have grown more accustomed to my condition, but that is not the reason for today's high spirits. My search of the Ogai house has finally borne fruit. When I pulled all the drawers out of the desk in the study, I found an envelope stuck between the desk and the wall. It must have fallen off the back of the writing tray. Inside were 3 outdoor photographs. I couldn't recognize the scenery due to my condition, but I'm pretty sure that they show 3 buildings. Scrawled on the back of each photo is an address: Nagano Prefecture, M Village, Tochigi Prefecture, S Town, Shizuoka Prefecture, H Town. None of the names is familiar, so they must be way out in the countryside. H Town sounds fun. Let's go there. The photos are all dated more than 10 years ago. I don't know why they were taken or what they mean, but maybe Saya will be able to make some sense of them. In any case, this is something that even Saya missed while she was living in that house. I wonder how she'll react when I show her what I've found. Saya, I want so badly to see her. The thought of her waiting for me speeds my footsteps. When I step through the gate, I see that the front door is wide open again. This is the second time this has happened. Upon entering the house this time, however, the sound of Saya crying chills my blood. And it's not just her. I hear a low, wet grunting. There's no time to take off my shoes. I race down the hallway, propelled by a terrifying premonition. Oh, should I censor that? I think this one's fine. A monster is in my house and it's attacking Saya. The filth oozing from its body spreads across her skin as it moves with animal ferocity. She looks at me with tear-filled eyes and calls my name in a weak, breathless voice. Rage erupts inside me like black lava. The monster stops gorging itself on Saya's body and turns its head to look at me. Surprised by my own composure, I slip past it and grab the meat cleaver sitting next to the sink. Without a moment's hesitation, I slash at the monster's face. It screams and staggers away from Saya. My attack must have blinded it because it flails its tentacles wildly as it tries to drive me away. My bloodlust still unsated, I calmly seize one of the appendages and plunge my weapon twice more into its quivering flesh. The blade enters its body with fascinating ease. Each strike sprays my face with its blood. As I carve the monster to pieces and savor its hideous screams, my mind is finally consumed by rage. No mercy, I'll see this monster suffer for what it's done to Saya. I give myself to the fury, howling at the top of my lungs as I slash and slash and slash. Even after the flesh beast stops moving, I keep slashing until I realize that it can no longer feel pain. Cursing myself for killing it so quickly, I stab the cleaver into the floor, snapping it in half. When my thoughts finally begin to regain some cohesion, I find myself still digging the broken knife into the floor. The monster is gone, but pieces of it are scattered everywhere. I stop cutting into the tile, and in the sudden silence I hear Saya's faint sobs coming from the corner of the kitchen.
Saya.
I pull the cowering Saya into my arms. She stiffens in fear at first, but as soon as she realizes that it's me, she clings to my body and cries. I don't know what to say. I can only keep holding her. This should never have happened to Saya. Everything in this twisted world is to blame, yes, including myself. I couldn't protect her. If I'd been here, then maybe I could have prevented this. She says again and again in a voice choked with tears. Not wanting to hear that from her, I pull her head into my chest. I try to reassure her, but she shakes her head vigorously in denial.
違うの。私がやったの。
I don't understand. What is she saying?
君がやったって何を？
私、この人の頭の中を文則と同じ状態にして、文則が感じるのと同じように世界が見えるようにしたの。
It takes me some time to understand the meaning of Saya's words.
一体どうやって？
Finally regaining her composure, Saya responds to my confusion in a low voice.
私にはそういうことができるの。他の生き物の体を組み替えたり調整したり、私に生まれつき備わってる能力なの。どこをどういじればいいのかはその生き物によってまちまちだから、ちゃんと勉強してからでないとダメだけど、海のりの脳に何があったのか私は下調べして分かってたから。だから同じことができるかどうか他の人で実験してみたの。
なんでそんなことを？
そうすればみんな海のりみたいに私に優しくしてくれるようになるかと思って。
Aww. My heart aches at the loneliness in her voice as she confesses her sorrowful wish.
なのにこの人は全然優しくなんかなかった。さやのことをいじめたいって壊したいって言ってあんな。
She starts crying into my chest again, unable to say any more. I gently rub her back while trying to get my jumbled thoughts together. What is Saya that she can do such a thing? The answer is beyond me. However, there is one thing that I can answer here and now. Saya is mistaken.
僕がサヤに優しいのは僕が事故に遭ったからだって、そう君は思ったんだね。
I smile and shake my head.
違うよ。それはただの始まりでしかない。そんな簡単なことじゃないんだよ。僕とサヤが出会って、それから二人で過ごした時間のその一日一日の積み重ねが今の僕らの関係を作ってるんだ。わかるかい？
海のり。
あの日から今日までサヤと一緒にいた僕だから、サヤに優しくして大切にしてあげたいって。そう思う僕になった。そう思われるサヤになったんだ。これって大変なことだろう。
Saya is still crying, but now her tears feel warm against my chest.
分かってる。さっきやっと分かった。
Her smile shines through her tears.
さやには文則しかいないんだって。文則みたいな人はもう他に誰もいないんだって。
Now more than ever, I feel the depth of the bond between us, and I'm sure that Saya feels it too. I wrap my arms tightly around her and seal her lips with mine. Saya responds, winding her arms around my neck as our tongues desperately seek each other's warmth. At this moment, Saya is my whole world, and I am hers. The earth turns for us alone. Of course, I still haven't told her something very important. I don't know why I've never said it before, perhaps because it was always so obvious. However, I should put it into words at least once, this oath of mine.
僕は君のことが。
待って。
She stops me with a finger against my lips.
その前にみのり、一つだけ確かめさせて。
僕の望み。
Saya nods, staring into my eyes with unusual solemnity.
さっきも言ったけど、私には私にしかできない方法で生き物の体に干渉でき
She
る。
can fix us.
人間の脳をいじる方法もこれでちゃんと確認が取れたわ。 だから
Saya pauses and takes a deep breath before continuing.
今ならあなたの頭を元の状態に戻すこともできるの。
なんだって。
Until now, that hasn't even been in the realm of possibility.
その人にやったのと逆のことを海のりにしてあげればいいだけ。とっても簡単なことよ。
I replay Saya's words in my head to be sure of their
だ
meaning.
から海のり、あなたが昔の暮らしに戻りたいかどうか、あの事故で失ったものを取り戻したいのかどうか。
Okay. Save. Let's save here. Quick save? Is that it? I guess. Okay. Or open save and load menu? Okay. Alright, so I already know. This continues the story, saying I don't need it anymore. Saying I want it all back gets a bad/neutral ending. So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to end the stream with this ending today, because my throat hurts quite a bit, just from reading so much. So I'll finish this ending, and then I guess next week or the week after, because I have a bunch of like half-finished games now, we'll do the rest of the other ending. So I'll say I want it all back.
戻れるっていうのなら元に戻りたいと思う。
I've never wondered if there could be any other answer. I stopped dwelling on this question a long time ago, and if I'd been asked before I met Saya, I wouldn't have hesitated. What about now? What does it mean to wish for the past? And what could it do to me and Saya? As soon as these questions occur to me, my true feelings become unclear. The hurried answer I just gave her was less certain than I thought.
そう。そうよね。当たり前よね。
I'm also gonna be back in a couple minutes. I'm gonna go potty, and I'm gonna grab another beer, and I'll be back. Hang on, there's a way to put text up, right? Yeah. Oh. There. Yeah. I'll mute my microphone so you can't listen to me pee. Alright, I'm back. Just get rid of this text. I had 2 beers left from the pack I bought earlier this week. So, trying to finish those off today. Saya smiles softly, her expression an unreadable mixture of what seems to be sorrow and relief. Seeing it fills me with sudden unease, as though I've just wounded her deeply with my careless words.
なさや、僕は。
いいの、文則。もう何も言わないで。
We've just chosen to have Saya fix our brains, so we won't see everything warped like this anymore. Saya silences me with another kiss and thrusts her tongue into my mouth with even greater passion than before. As the sweet softness of her tongue clouds my mind, I begin to feel an urgent need to say what she prevented me from saying, to speak those most important words.
Saya.
I can't speak for some reason, and my mind is hazy. My consciousness is slipping away as the euphoria from her kiss spreads to my entire body.
おやすみなさい、文則。
I hear Saya whisper softly from far
心
away.
配しないで。次に目が覚める時には何もかもが終わっているから。
Uh-oh, we fucked up. Hello? Wait, I have to tell you something before I sleep. Just one thing. My efforts are meaningless, however, as oblivion calls me into its embrace. When I awoke, the first thing that greeted me was a terrible stink. Mr. Suzumi's body was covered in flies, and I could smell the rotten stench that you would expect from a corpse. And he wasn't dead for that long. I mean, we like just killed him. I don't know how long we were unconscious for, but... The night had ended, but Saya was nowhere to be seen in the morning light. Aside from the blood-covered floor, the kitchen looked the same as it had before the accident. In the den, however, the colors that had been so soothing the day before now served as a stark reminder of what a distant world I'd been living in. Despite knowing that would be futile, I wandered the house searching for Saya. For almost an hour, I tried in vain to deny reality. Then I called the police. When the operator answered, I couldn't stop myself from crying. It had been such a long time since I'd heard a human voice other than Saya's. As became clear later, Mr. Suzumi had murdered his family before I killed him. Unable to give the police a satisfactory explanation, I was arrested for all 3 murders. What? And when they found the remains of Takahata Omi in my house, a 4th was added to the charges. During my interrogation, I told them everything exactly as it had happened, in every detail. The detectives didn't believe me, of course, but the doctor who came later did. He had me moved from the jail to a much cleaner white room. That's right, this room looks just as white to me as it does to everyone else. In the end, they declared me incapable of answering for my actions. Everything that had happened to me was real, but part of a reality incompatible with the rest of the world. So the doctors gave me a space all to myself, a place where I could live in my own world. I'm sad that I wasn't believed, but I know that I couldn't be helped. In this world, reality is what the majority says it is, and I had the misfortune to step outside of that box. Wow, so deep. The walls of my room are undeniably white. That, at least, I can be thankful for as I lived out the rest of my life here. Everyone said that there was never any girl named Saya. Well, so be it. Saya probably was never part of their world. But why shouldn't I be able to hear Saya's voice here in my room? This is my world, after all, a continuation of the very real time that we spent together. How long did I wait with such thoughts floating through my mind? One night I awoke to the sound of something crawling down the hallway. The sound would not normally have woken me. but I must have had a premonition that night, sleeping lighter than usual. I had waited for her arrival, so I knew instantly that it was her.
さやなんだね。
She did not answer, but I could feel her outside my door, struggling with some internal conflict.
どうして声を聞かせてくれないんだ。
After a long silence, something small slid through the narrow bars of my peephole. Ooh, a cellular telephone. Does it have Snake? It was a cell phone, the screen already showing a notepad with freshly entered text. My voice will sound strange to you. I couldn't suppress a chuckle at Sai's uncharacteristic display of shyness.
そんなこと僕は全然気にならないよ。君の声が聞きたい。姿が見たい。
After a short pause, the phone returned to my side. Please let me stay the Saya you remember.
そうか。
I'd started to suspect that it might be so. In the hell my eyes had made of the world, Saya alone had looked normal. I thought that she was somehow unique. In truth, however, she had probably been a different kind of unique than I'd imagined. It wasn't that my senses hadn't distorted her appearance, but that she'd been so unusual as to seem normal to my twisted mind. Saya's true form was something other than what I had known. Now, however, I could see her as she really was. But Saya didn't want that, and it was not for me to question the workings of her heart. I just had to accept that girls need to keep some things
あの
private.
日君に言おうとしてたこと保留になってたの覚えてる。
I slid the phone back to her. I was hoping you'd forgotten. I smiled wryly at the text on the screen, wondering if she'd really thought me so heartless.
忘れたりするもんか。
No one was listening, but still, it would have been embarrassing to speak the rest aloud, so this time I typed it into the phone. Yeah, you used to have to text like that, kids. Alright, so he says, I love you. I slid the phone back through the slot. I could sense her trembling outside my door. I couldn't hear her or see her, but still, I knew. Saya was crying.
僕は構わなかったんだよ。
Perhaps my words offered no comfort, spoken so late. Even so, I was ready. I had wanted to return to my old life, true, but I would have abandoned that wish for Saya. I know that I would have gone with her, hand in hand as far as we could, even to the most forbidden of places. Saya, too, must have known that I was prepared, and because she knew, she stopped me from saying those words. If I had spoken that oath, there would have been no going back. I'm sorry I was a coward. Seeing the words on the screen, I shook my head.
君だけが悪いんじゃない。あの時僕に迷いがなければ君だって勇気を出せた。そうだろう。
I was afraid of you, of how you were changing because of me.
仕方ないさ。
Saya couldn't bring herself to take everything from me, and I couldn't bring myself to give up everything for her. We were too weak to find
さや
happiness.
はこれからどうするんだい。
I'll keep searching for my dad. He'll know how to send me back to where I came
そ
from.
うか。帰りたいんだね。さやは。
A short time passed and no words or messages exchanged. I wondered how many times in that brief silence yes and no changed places in her mind. Yeah. When the phone finally returned, the characters on the screen seemed strangely uncertain.
そうか。お父さん、見つかるといいね。
I'll do my best. The time had come for our parting. She had chosen her path, and I had given my blessing. There was nothing more to be said.
もしも気が変わったら、僕はずっとここにいるから、いつでも来ていいからね。
I will, thank you. Goodbye, Fuminori. I read her final message and returned the phone to the other side.
さようなら。さや。
She gently slapped my door in response, and then I heard the sound of her sliding off down the hallway. And I was left alone in the silence of the night. Ever since that day, I've been waiting. Perhaps Saya really did return to where she came from. Perhaps she is still wandering today, looking for her father. It must be hard. She must be lonely. When she can no longer stand being alone, she will surely return to me. I am the only one who will comfort her and whisper sweet nothings in her ear. And so I wait, dreaming of her face and her voice. I wait. Forever in my white world. Bad end. Oh, this actually gets the credits. And yeah, this was Urobuchi, the guy who did Madoka and some other garbage. He did Fate Zero too, I guess. I think he did a few other Nitro Plus games, like I think the Cyber Slayer. I think he did that one. And that one was shit. But whatever. So yeah, that was like the bad/neutral ending. And next time I play this, we'll get the other endings. So there's still a bad ending, like an actual like bad ending and a good ending. And they're kind of like right next to each other, I think. So I should be able to get both in one stream. It shouldn't be a big thing. I think it's only maybe an hour and a half more. I would just do it today, but my throat hurts from reading out loud so much. So, yeah, I'm just gonna end it here once the credits are done. And I'm not really sure what I'm gonna play next week. Because I think I might be doing a collab next week with Angela. I have to check. But I think I have like 4 unfinished games. I have the Mad Father. Before the Night. Amnesia. And now this. And Cuckold Simulator got an update, so I want to play that again. So I have a lot of games that I want to play, and not a whole lot of time to stream. So through the next couple of weeks, I'll be doing some of these half-finished games. Ooh, staff comment. Oh, that's like a web page. I clicked on staff comment and it linked to a web page. Sound library. So one thing I like about the soundtrack, at least in English, everything starts with an S. This one is Saya no Uta, and then this one translates to Shoes of Glass. So every song on the soundtrack starts with an S. Okay, back to the menu. So anyway, yeah, next week I might be doing a collab on Angela's channel for some Power Wash Simulator again. I'll just check right now, because I don't remember. November 4th? What day is that? Friday. Okay, so Friday I'll be doing a Power Wash Simulator collab on Angela's stream. Her channel. And I'll play something else on Sunday, or Saturday rather. On Saturday I'll finish one of these half-finished games. I'll probably just finish this one just because I like it. And then I'll try to fit in Mad Father and Before the Night and finish those out as well. Oh yeah, Little Witch no Beta too. Thank you. I still have to finish that one also. So yeah, I have a lot of games unfinished. Just because with October, I wanted to play a bunch of spooky games, you know, some kind of like horror themed games. And then I wasn't able to finish them because I only stream once or twice a week, which gives me about 4 streams or about 4 weeks in the month. So, you know, there were some time constraints, but I'll finish everything. Don't worry. So yeah, next week, Power Wash on Angela's channel, and I'll just finish out Saya no Uta also on Saturday. So thank you for being with me again today. Happy Halloween, and I will see you all next week. Bye.